Chapter 1923. 1,000 cups of wine are not enough to drink with a bosom friend, and half a sentence is too much to speak with a bosom friend. Chu Yang and the two Central Prefecture super-arresters, in the eyes of the onlookers, were the former. The more they talked, the more congenial they became, and the more profound their words became. Among them, they talked about how to use martial arts in solving cases, which made many people feel enlightened. Some people felt enlightened, while others felt that a great disaster was coming. Yu hated the feeling of familiarity with the three of them at first sight. His uneasiness was magnified, and he became more anxious. He even couldn't help but feel fear. All kinds of emotions in his heart were directly reflected. His hands trembled uncontrollably. When he realized that he couldn't stand it, he suddenly felt a burst of sadness, anger, and unwillingness. He roared in his heart, "Is it this rhythm again? When I'm at my proudest moment, you kick me directly into the abyss." Previously, how wise was he to devise a strategy and decide victory from 1,000 miles away? How cool was he to have a feather fan and a silk headband, and destroy the oars while talking and laughing? How extraordinary was he to have everyone from the 6 great academies in the palm of his hand? But why did everything beautiful, when it was at its brightest and most beautiful, turn into a nightmare? All conspiracies and tricks are nothing in the face of absolute power. At this moment, Chu Fei's words appeared in Yi Yu's mind. His heart was torn, and in the heart-breaking pain, he seemed to see himself being torn into two. His face was distorted and looked very ferocious, but no one noticed it at all. At this moment, everyone's attention was on Chu Yang, Tai Wuqing, and Ling Xiaoxiao. "Damn it, all of you deserve to die." When Yi Yu's gaze fell on the three of them again, and when he saw Chu Yang again, his mentality was completely twisted. "Lu San, if you repeat the same mistake, I will definitely make you suffer a fate worse than death. I will make you more miserable and pitiful than Chu Fei." Chu Yang did not know that Yi Yu was gritting his teeth, and his hatred had seeped into his bones. He only occasionally chimed in when Iron Wuqing and Cold Laugh were discussing the case, and he tried his best to hide his shallowness. Although he was very serious and had handed over his brain, he only moved his mouth and came up with some novel inference. The specifics were all done by Tai Wuqing and Sneer. Long Shenxi's death was very strange. He seemed to have been stabbed in the heart with a sword, but there was no trace of blood. There was no trace of shock on his face. Instead, it was very peaceful. It was as if he had died peacefully. It was as if he had been killed in his sleep. He did not feel any pain. The way he died was also a little strange. Logically speaking, he should have fallen on his back, but it was the other way around. "Hehe, the two super-arresters of the Central Province, are you here to solve a case or to learn from others? Or should I say, the two of you are just assistants?" The sudden voice pierced everyone's ears, and they were all shocked. Who had the guts to be so presumptuous in front of the two super-arresters of the Central Province, and even to mock them? Soon, people saw that the young man floating in the air had been chopped off below his knees. This person was naturally Yi Yu. Chu Yang looked at Yi Yu, and wondered in his heart, what kind of motive would make this cripple risk offending the 6 great academies and the two super-arresters of the Central Province to jump out and make trouble? Also, do I look very powerful? Why is he so nervous? Chapter 1924. The moment Yi Yu became the center of attention, he felt sad. Yi Yu, have to struggle so powerlessly? He didn't even have a puppet that he could control because he was only here to watch a joke. He didn't expect that he would have to fight barehanded. He turned from a chess player to a chess piece. His actions were no different from a dying struggle. He didn't see it as a joke, but he became a joke. Am I wrong? Facing Tai Wuqing and Sneer Xiao, he directly pointed at Lu San and said, "What can such an ignorant kid know? From what I see, he's just good at talking and knows nothing about solving cases." The rest of the work was done by you two. Am I right? Of course, this was the truth. Many people agreed with this point and couldn't help but nod. Immediately, there was a discussion among the crowd. The anger of the headmasters of the 6 great academies disappeared in an instant. This person was right. In fact, they also realized this point, but it was inconvenient for them to say it. In addition, they were a little worried. If the 2 super arresters of Zhongzhou were misled by this ignorant Lu San, it would be a disaster. Tai Wuqing and Sneer Shao heard this and their faces instantly turned pale. Chu Yang was amused. I'm just a layman. Do I give you so much pressure? Interesting? Sir, the first question, he said, is it appropriate for you to call me an ignorant kid? I look like I'm 19 or 20 years old. I don't seem to be young anymore. Am I right? Chu Yang's current appearance was roughly 20 years old. Yi was surprised, but it was easily solved. I apologize to you. However, he changed the topic and said, but I said you know nothing about solving cases. I won't take it back, let alone apologize. I also ask you to have some self-awareness and not mislead the 2 super arresters. Is that okay? This guy is not stupid. Could it be that I guessed wrong and he just doesn't like me? Chu Yang frowned. When he was about to speak, someone in the crowd shouted, Yi Yu, is this Yi Yu? The person who spoke was wearing the Sky Academy's uniform and was obviously a student of the Sky Academy. It is indeed Yi Yu. His legs were once chopped off by a wild dog in the eastern wilderness. I think that wild dog was called Chu Fei. The so-called Chu Fei is Chu Yang's elder brother. When these words were spoken, the crowd burst into an uproar. Many people had never thought that there would be such a grudge between them. At that moment, everyone understood Yi Yu's actions. Yi Yu was probably taking revenge. The current situation was the most disadvantageous for the 2 brothers, Chu Yang and Chu Fei. Yi Yu was very sensitive to the slightest sign of trouble. Yi Yu was only at the 5th level of the soul amalgamation realm. He hadn't reached the transcendence realm yet, so it was impossible for him to regrow his severed legs. Perhaps he would never be able to do so in his entire life. How could he not be resentful? The 5th tier of the soul amalgamation realm was not far from the transcendence realm, but it was unknown how many people were stuck there. Chu Yang had broken through so easily, so these people were called geniuses. No matter what, although Yi Yu seemed to be belittling Chu Yang, he actually thought too highly of Chu Yang. So that's how it is. Big Brother is quite capable, digging holes for me everywhere. Brother Fei, oh Brother Fei, I'll just call you Brother Deceiver from now on. Chu Yang couldn't help but criticize his big brother. He couldn't help but squint his eyes. This guy in front of him wanted to arm wrestle with him. He had no choice but to say, you can doubt me, but you can't doubt the 2 seniors. Chapter 1925. Yi Yu's face was full of sarcasm, and he admitted directly, I'm indeed despicable and gauging the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. However, it's a big deal that a saint was killed. Therefore, as long as you have the slightest possibility of misleading the 2 super detectives, I will never allow it. Yi Yu knew what he was doing. The plan he was in charge of had mostly been completed. He was not afraid of death. In order to defend his achievements, he could fight with his bare arms. I finally know why your legs were cut off. Chu Yang couldn't handle such firepower, so he directly changed the topic. He said with a smile, Can you tell me what that person said to you when your legs were chopped off? I want to tell you later. Chu Yang smiled and said, Wait, I want to tell you too. Crack. Suddenly hearing this, Yi Yu's face immediately twisted, and his teeth made cracking sounds as he gritted them. In front of true strength, everything is nothing. This sentence involuntarily rushed out from the bottom of his heart, and it was as if thousands of evil spirits had rushed out from hell, tearing everything apart. Chu Yang didn't care about Yi Yu's mood. He asked the people of the Sky Academy, Does anyone know? Please tell me. I must give this thing one more time. People were speechless. Lu San had a clear distinction between love and hate, but in a bad way. He was laughing in his heart. What a blatant revenge! I can tell you, no need for others. Yu's venomous voice made people shudder. As long as you have the ability. This sentence is true. In front of true power, everything else is nothing. Haha. Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh out loud. Good, good, good. This sentence is just right. Today, I'll let you feel this sentence again. I'll also let you take a good look at my strength. You plaything, open your dog eyes wide and let this young master see clearly. Boom. It's starting. It's starting. The crowd was lively. They felt that this was too appropriate. It was time to see the real power. Tai Wuching and Sneer were the happiest. They could see Chu Yang's ability now. Therefore, not to mention sneering, even Iron Heartless, like Zhang Jian, was smiling like a flower at this moment. They were looking forward to seeing how Chu Yang would solve the case. Yu's eyes narrowed. What could he rely on? An even bigger lie, a super big lie. Feng Pelong's eyes widened, and Zhang Jian's mouth could not help but twitch. Master, do you have a plan? Bing Kuan was also very surprised. Didn't they agree before? Where did the so-called not proficient in solving cases go? I've gained some insights, so I want to give it a try. Chu Yang's answer almost turned the Ice Kuan into a mute. His master was really speechless. He had just gained a bit of insight, and he immediately started arguing with others. Kuan, what's your reaction? At most, it's just a loss of face. What's the big deal? I often lose face. That was true. Bing Kuan agreed and couldn't help but laugh. However, master, you rarely throw your face to your enemy. Chu Yang was speechless this time. He had not thought things through. However, this matter had to be done. Arguing with Yu was secondary. The main thing was to make Tai Wuching and Sneer feel better. After all, he couldn't let the people who thought highly of him lose face, right? Of course, he naturally had some confidence. In the beast abyss of the god's realm, he had once seized a rule of time that the absolute beginning ruler had set up in the Sin Hall. This rule of time had been completely refined. He planned to make a fuss about it, to apply his martial arts cultivation to solving cases. Chapter 1926. In his previous life, there were videos of cases, but the heavenly spirit world didn't. But the heavenly spirit world had the rule of time. Chu Yang's idea was very simple. Through the rule of time, he could look into the past. With his current understanding of the rule of time, he might not be able to look into the past, but as long as he could see a little bit of it, it would be enough for him. Perhaps this little bit of information could help him find the enemy in the dark. After Bing Kuan knew Chu Yang's intention, he didn't say the word whimsical, because he couldn't. His master was the creator of whimsical ideas, which was completely out of common sense. What others couldn't do, his master could easily do. Bing Kuan had witnessed such things many times. After Chu Yang sat down, he extended the rule of time. Immediately, the tentacles of the rule appeared from his body and disappeared into the void. This rule of time was like a clue in a case. Chu Yang would follow this clue and slowly remove the fog to find the murderer of the long river of time. After that, he could trace back along the long river of time to see the past. The cultivation of martial arts had completely turned into the investigation of a case. It was easy to think, but difficult to do. Soon, Chu Yang was in a dilemma. He searched for the rule of time. After his consciousness passed through thick and heavy darkness, the rule of time immediately divided into endless branches. These branches seemed to have no end. If he continued to explore, it was very likely that there would be endless branches in front of him. If he continued to explore further, there might be endless branches. Die before the start of the battle. Martial Chu is not Zhuge Liang. Why does Martial Chu also apply? I protest. Chu Yang gave up at the first time and retreated to learn from Bing Kuan. Bing Kuan controlled the rule of space in the form of a Kuan fish. When he transformed into a Kuan-pung, he would become the king of time. After he became a sage, his next step would be to evolve like the Kuan-pung. His understanding of the rule of time was definitely not shallow. However, after Bing Kuan heard this, he also said that he couldn't do anything about dying before the start of the battle. He had died before the start of the battle for a long time. At the same time, he expressed his surprise. Master, are you trying to say that the Kuan-pung is also a fart? No one is as troublesome as you. It was already shocking that Chu Yang could die before he even achieved victory. He immediately understood the reason. He didn't go to the world of the gods for nothing, and he wasn't shocked in that strange world for nothing. His divinity was formed by the primordial gas and turbid matter, and it contained the earliest embryonic form of the rules of time and space. I'm the one who's a treasure. That time rule is nothing. At first, he despised the rule of time, but then he realized that the rule of time and space were fused together in the Godhead, and he came to a realization. Time and space are originally one. Cutting into the Godhead from the aspect of time, it would be strange if I wasn't blind. He began to try activating the space and time precepts at the same time, but he found it abnormally difficult. Time passed invisibly. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. However, after Chu Yang closed his eyes and sat down cross-legged, there was no more movement. People were already a little impatient. Yiyu saw that the time was right and immediately said, Lu San, are you going to use this method to tell me, what is the meaning of, in the face of absolute power, all conspiracies and tricks are fleeting clouds? Of course, Chu Yang couldn't answer. There were also many voices in the crowd. Solving a case like this, never seen before. If a case can be solved like this, I'm also a super arrester. Chapter 1927. Tai Wuching and Ling Xiaoxiao couldn't help but frown. They had wasted too much time. Your method is not bad. You forced everyone to leave by closing your eyes and sitting cross-legged. After that, you can easily cover up your ignorance and incompetence. You can also be irresponsible for your arrogant words. Yiyu couldn't help but sneer. He mocked himself in his heart. What am I worried about? What am I afraid of? This Lu San is just SOSO. I think too highly of him. I actually did such a stupid thing because of this idiot. At this moment, the sarcasm on his face was obvious. It was as if the word sarcasm was written on it. He regained his vigor and felt that everything was still under his control. He was still in the midst of strategizing and deciding the outcome of the battle from 1,000 miles away. He was still holding the feather fan and silk headband, chatting and laughing as the oars turned into ashes. This feeling was great. Yiyu was intoxicated. He closed his eyes and enjoyed the feeling of regaining what he had lost. Pop, 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 rings of void ripples rippled out from Chu Yang. At this moment, he finally activated all the precepts of space and time in his physical body and two Godhead. Tendrils of space-time precepts that were like thin threads entered the void from his body. Only Chu Yang could see these space-time tendrils. As these space-time tendrils entered the void, there were obvious space-time fluctuations from Chu Yang's body. Yiyu could feel these space-time fluctuations most clearly because he had his eyes closed and was enjoying the wonderful pleasure of strategizing and deciding victory from 1,000 miles away. Space-time fluctuations, how is this possible? This Lu San is proficient in the space-time technique. In an instant, Yiyu was horrified. It was as if he had suddenly found an enemy barging in with a steel knife. He was pulled out of his tenderness and his head was chopped off with a crack. What kind of fluctuation is this? What is Lu San doing? It seems that he is doing some kind of deduction. It is extremely difficult, so it is taking a long time. The crowd burst into an uproar all of a sudden. Those who hadn't gone far immediately rushed back. Space-time retrospection technique? Tai Wuching's dead face suddenly came alive at this moment. Every muscle on his face seemed to be shocked, and his expression was incomparably rich. He opened his mouth wide and even stuck out his tongue. "Is that possible?" He suddenly turned to the side and asked with a sneer. The sneering Maitreya Buddha's smiling face froze at this moment. It was as stiff as a dead person's face. It was as if he had been petrified. In that instant, he seemed to have turned into a heartless man. After a while he said, "It should be. It's the legendary most brilliant crime-solving technique, the time and space tracing technique. The space-time tracing technique can only be used when one is at least in the saint realm. How can he do it with such a low realm?" Sneer Smile understood Tai Wu-Ching's disbelief. He sighed and said, "So, his space-time traceback technique is even more amazing than the space-time traceback technique we know. It should be tailor-made for solving cases. Space-time tracing." Boom. When the crowd heard these words from Tai Wu-Ching and Sneer Cold, they instantly boiled over. The time and space tracing technique is to trace back to the past and gain insight into what happened in the past to determine who the murderer is. This is the legendary divine technique for solving cases. Lu San actually grasped such a secret technique. Then, what he said earlier must be the truth. Nonsense, do you even need to say that? No matter how unfamiliar he is with solving cases, he must be a descendant of a super arrestor. Chapter 1928. Whoosh. They looked at Yi Yu coldly, their gazes extremely cold. The holy disciples had been killed repeatedly, and this had shaken the foundations of the 6 great colleges. Anyone who tried to stop them from solving the case would be their enemy, including Yi Yu. As the headmasters of the 6 great colleges, they did not care what grudges Yi Yu had with Chu Yang and Chu Fei. If Yi Yu dared to do anything to stop them from solving the case, he would be killed without mercy. How could this be? How could this be? Even saints might not be able to master space-time technique. How could he? Yi Yu did not notice the silent warning of the headmasters of the 6 great colleges. He cried out in shock, causing everyone to be shocked again. Saints might not be able to master space-time technique. For example, Bing Kun was a saint and would be the ruler of time in the future. However, he had not mastered the rules of time at all. He had only stepped into the domain of time and touched the surface of the rules of time. Everyone could understand Yi Yu's loss of composure. However, when they thought of his previous arrogance, they could only laugh in their hearts. Lu San did not say a word, but he still slapped Yi Yu's face countless times. When everything calmed down, the same situation as before appeared again. After a long time, there was no movement from Chu Yang's side. It was completely silent. At this moment, he was once again in a difficult situation. After triggering the rules of space-time and passing through layers of darkness, what he faced was no longer endless space-time lines. There were only less than 100 branches, and these branches could be easily explored to the end. However, after using the elimination method to pass this stage, he entered the endless space-time dimensions. He did not know which direction was the past and which direction was the future. In the endless space-time dimensions, if one was not careful and took a wrong step, they would lose their direction and the way back. Their spirit would be lost in the endless space-time dimensions, and they would become a living person. Am I going to die before I can succeed again? Chu Yang muttered to himself in the inexplicable space-time dimension. He did not dare to act rashly. Outside, after a long wait, Yi Yu's emotions calmed down again. He spoke again. Is the rules of space-time so easy to comprehend and use? Wishful thinking. He must have been lost in space-time and completely turned into a living dead. However, this was not enough for him to vent his anger. Yi Yu continued, "This is what happens when you overestimate yourself. When you want to use absolute strength to crush others, it's best to weigh your own weight first." The headmasters of the 6 great academies immediately lost their luster. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. Sigh, what a pity. Nephew Lu is still too impatient. 1. After Tai Wu-Ching sighed, he suddenly exploded with a great majesty. He stared coldly at Yu and said, "If he dies, you will die too. Not bad." Sneer laugh was also filled with killing intent. For the sake of our sex, for the sake of our reputations, nephew Lu forced himself to do this, risking his life to prove himself. This was caused by you. If he dies, you must die. After Yu heard that, he suddenly laughed. Yes, it was under my guidance that such a genius in solving cases, died. But so what? Isn't it just death? Exchanging my lowly life for it is worth it. Worth it, it was indeed worth it. If he did not say anything, with Lu San's ability and the 2 super arresters of Zhongzhou, his proud work would have been destroyed. What was there to fear about death? As long as he planned, victory would be decided thousands of miles away. Chapter 1929. This Yu is a madman. When the people looked at Yu, who was laughing presumptuously, their pupils could not help but shrink. "You're laughing too early," Zhang Jian said. Yu's laughter quickly stopped. "It's too early for you to say that." Feng Polong also opened his mouth. As soon as the 2 of them spoke, they immediately became the focus of the crowd. Countless gazes fell on them. Zhang Jian and Feng Polong were qualified to say such words because they seemed to be Lu San's friends. "You guys are very confident in him." Yu's joy was reduced by a lot at this moment. "We are indeed very confident in him," Feng Polong said with a smile. "There's a saying that everyone is very familiar with now, and it's very suitable to describe him. There's no one like him in the past and no one in the future." Feng Polong was definitely not lying. Did people not say that Chu Yang was unprecedented and no one in the future? Of course, he was also extremely confident in Chu Yang. Chu Yang accidentally made up nonsense, and it seemed that he was about to become a super arrester. Therefore, when he looked at Yu, he could not help but laugh even more happily. "You're born to be slapped in the face. In the face of absolute strength, everything is fleeting clouds, and you'll still hear it. There's no one like him in the past and no one in the future, ha." Yu could not help but laugh out loud again. Then, he mocked, "There seem to be a lot of people like him recently." "There are indeed a lot of people, ha." Feng Polong laughed. He could not hold back his laughter. "Is he so unprecedented?" Yu retorted sharply, "I've seen Lu San's unprecedented and no one in the future. As a person, you must have some patience." After Feng Polong said this, he crossed his arms and did not say anything. "Very well." Yu was very confident in his judgment. "Then I'd like to see what you mean by unprecedented and no one in the future." The crowd also quieted down. Although waiting was impatient, everyone was still waiting. Tai Wuching and Sneer were also waiting. They were not sure about what Feng Polong and Zhang Jian had said. The only thing they were sure of was that Lu San was indeed extraordinary. Very soon, the scene became even quieter. No one knew who had slapped whose face in the end. However, Yu was definitely not likable. Which student of the Great Six Academies did not want to solve the case? Who did not want to bring the culprit to justice? After another 2 hours, many people could not wait any longer. The surroundings gradually became noisy. At this moment Yu spoke again. "Is this how you slap my face?" His expression was extremely carefree and filled with wanton ridicule. Such a savage smile was truly somewhat dazzling. Feng Polong wanted to hit someone, and Zhang Jian wanted to kill someone. The headmasters of the 6 great academies all had gloomy expressions on their faces. Tai Wuching and Sneer Zhao's eyes emitted a cold light. "Ha." Yu noticed this and could not help but laugh out loud again. "Your hatred for me really makes me happy." He was indeed very happy. He smiled at everyone and said, "Can you hate me even more? It's not strong enough. I'm about to lose my feelings." "Look, what's that?" The sudden appearance of a voice made Yu extremely dissatisfied. He felt that someone was trying to divert his attention and distract him. He was purely trying to make him unhappy. At this moment, he should be the center of the world, the focus of everything. Chapter 1930. Everyone was angry. That person could not help but sneer and say, "If you must think so, that's fine too. Try your best to make it look like Long Shensi was ambushed and killed. How? How can a dead person do that? No matter how you do it, there will be flaws everywhere." All of a sudden, two voices jumped out one after another. Yu was angry at first, but he felt that something was strange. Then, he wondered, where did those voices come from? When he looked over, he saw an image appearing in front of Chu Yang. It was a dark night in the video. Two masked men appeared in the dark night, and their conversation was also heard from that place. "Stop complaining. The two of us are considered lucky. After all, we still have dragon meat. The others won't be as lucky as us." "You're right." In the darkness, the two of them could not be seen at all. After their conversation ended, a bonfire was lit. The blazing flames tore open the darkness, revealing the two people in the darkness. At this moment, countless eyes stared at them. However, to their disappointment, the two of them were both wearing ghost masks. Even when they were eating the dragon meat, only their mouths were exposed. The people felt that it was a pity, but Yu was very glad. He realized that he had broken out in a cold sweat and his back was drenched. However, no one noticed, and no one paid attention to his wonderful face just now. "Who were you making hate you even more? Was it you?" Before Yu could finish rejoicing, he was slapped in the face. This sentence was like a whip that ruthlessly slapped his face. It was burning and painful. "Aren't you having a good time now?" Yu was simply happy. Every word that he said was fiercely thrown back at him. Especially when he found that the people who mocked him were not Feng Polong and Zhang Jian, but the people who were watching the show. He was even more happy. He was extremely happy. There were countless mocking faces and mocking gazes. Every single person seemed to be slapping his face. Even if it was a dog's fart, how could he not be happy? He was so happy that he could not let out a fart. "Can I make you more happy?" "Ha ha!" When Feng Polong looked at Yu with a smile, the crowd burst into a wave of ridicule. Yu was like a small boat in the middle of a stormy sea, stubbornly holding on, preventing himself from being capsized. But in the end, he was still capsized and completely swallowed up. "Does Lu San have the strength?" Feng Polong spoke again. Tai Wu Qing and Sneer Laugh couldn't help but laugh at this time. Whether Lu San had the strength or not was still a question, but how much foresight did they have? Can he tell you that in the face of absolute power, all schemes and tricks are nothing? Schwa. Yu's eyes instantly turned scarlet, and a ferocious glint appeared in them. He looked like an evil spirit as he glared at Feng Polong. "Did you get slapped in the face again?" "Ha ha!" The crowd burst into laughter again. So what if Yu was fierce and fierce? Who would fear him? You were born to be slapped in the face. In the future, you have to keep a low profile. Feng Polong ended his speech. He felt extremely comfortable from the inside out. He sneered in his heart, "Little guy, I'll let you be arrogant. Be arrogant again." The main contributor was naturally Chu Yang. No one knew what he had experienced. In the endless space-time dimensions, Chu Yang did not know which dimension to go to because he did a very cool thing, which was to throw himself away. Chapter 1931. He handed everything over to the Destiny Twins and let everything run as if it was the will of the heavens to complete a certain kind of destiny. In the end, of course, he succeeded. The image that appeared was the clearest part that he saw. There were still many blurry parts that were not shown. In general, he obtained a lot of information. "How is it? Do I have the strength?" This was the first sentence that Chu Yang said after opening his eyes. After hearing this, everyone's expression was extremely strange. Yu's happiness was not over yet. He had no choice but to become happy again. Because it was Chu Yang who said it, he had no choice but to become even more happy. I can say it now. Chu Yang smiled at Yi Yu and said, in the face of absolute strength, are all schemes and tricks useless? Ha ha. Everyone finally burst into laughter. The 6 courtyard masters laughed, Tai Wu Qing and Ling Xiao Xiao also laughed, Feng Polong, Zhang Jian, and the others all laughed, except for Yi Yu. Am I suddenly so popular? Chu Yang scratched his head and said to everyone with a puzzled expression. Ha ha. Everyone laughed even more crazily. Chu Yang was even more confused. He said to Yi Yu, you seem to have suddenly become very annoying. After hearing Chu Yang's words, some people laughed until tears came out of their eyes. Feng Polong also realized that his killing power to Yi Yu was too limited. Chu Yang was full of firepower. Please, how big is the shadow in your heart now? Chu Yang pointed at Yi Yu's heart. Ha ha. Almost some people laughed until they fainted. In front of them, Lu San was simply humiliating Yi Yu to death. They couldn't help but sympathize with Yi Yu. Yi Yu's face was so distorted that it seemed to have completely changed shape. It was as if it was no longer a human face, but a new human face. Lu San, you will die very, very miserably. Miserable, miserable, miserable. Chu Yang said with a smile, is that so? But are you sure you are not describing yourself right now? As he spoke, he said to the dean of 6th campus, don't you think it's necessary to keep him here? Kiki. At this moment Yi Yu laughed wildly. It's too late. When he spoke, his figure began to become indistinct. However, not only was there a symbol that was extremely clear, it was even shining, releasing endless light. Teleportation talisman. Quick, stop him. It's too late. He's already used the divine teleportation talisman. Even a saint wouldn't be able to stop him now. Yi Yu had long since made preparations to escape. He wasn't afraid of death, but he definitely couldn't die now. Lu San, just you wait. Chu Yang immediately added, you will definitely come back, right? Ha ha. Everyone laughed madly again. Although Yi Yu did not speak, his demon-like expression had already made everything clear. Compared to the current Yi Yu, the malicious ghost was as cute as a puppy. Looks like I haven't given you enough blows. Chu Yang laughed again. Then I will give you another blow. After a pause, he spat out 3 words. Blue moon flower. Suddenly, Yi Yu's already indistinct figure spasmed violently as if he had an epileptic seizure. His appearance was even scarier than that of a malicious ghost. His astonishment turned into extreme panic. Even his pupils were trembling. Unfortunately, after a short while, Yi Yu disappeared completely. He had been completely teleported away. Chapter 1932. Everyone. Chu Yang turned a blind eye to everyone's surprise. He joked, let me ask you again, how much is the shadow in Yi Yu's heart right now? There were people who laughed, but when they saw the reactions of the 2 super arresters and the heads of the 6 courtyards, they noticed something was wrong. Their laughter soon weakened and disappeared. Are you sure it's the blue moon flower? Tai Wu Qing asked in a deep voice. Sneer Xiao also asked, you can't speak carelessly about this. This was a reminder. That's right, this is no small matter. The sage master also spoke. He was one of the heads of the 6 courtyards, so he was naturally present. Chu Yang's smile also faded. He learned about the blue moon flower from the space-time retrospection. After asking the Ice Kuan, he finally knew the exact use of the blue moon flower. Therefore, he naturally understood why Tai Wu Qing and Sneer Xiao reacted this way. This was indeed very important. Normal people would be drugged by drugs, but saints would be drugged by mesmerizing holy incense. The most important use of the blue moon flower was to make saints faint. It was also the main ingredient to make mesmerizing holy incense. According to the Ice Kuan, the discovery of the blue moon flower was because of a woman, an extremely ugly woman. This extremely ugly woman had the same experience as many ugly women. After she accidentally obtained a blue moon flower, her ugly appearance did not change. However, the blue moon flower deceived everyone's perception. In everyone's eyes, she became a peerless beauty. Thus, she was a good match. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were a good match. The woman was extremely gentle and loved by her husband. She could not bear to deceive him, so she revealed her true appearance in front of her husband. She was already prepared to face her husband's anger and the fate of being divorced, but she never thought that although her husband was extremely shocked, in the end, he only smiled and said, "A beautiful woman will also become a skeleton in the end. A woman will doll herself up for the one who loves her. The blue moon flower is only your best appearance, it is not your deception." Indeed, these words might not be completely sincere, but her husband was definitely a kind person. However, such a kind person was killed by a saint like an ant. The woman was filled with grief and indignation. She swore to avenge her husband, but in the end, she discovered that the only way to do so was to turn her into a peerless beauty, the blue moon flower. She did not hesitate to give up her vanity, preferring to become an extremely ugly woman. She used the blue moon flower to make the enchanting holy incense, and in the end, drugged and killed the saint. If that was the case, Tai Wu Qing and the others would not have been so shocked by the blue moon flower. After the use of the blue moon flower was discovered, the spies from the gods' world who had infiltrated the heavenly spirit world found the place where the blue moon flower grew and produced a large amount of enchanting saint incense. They used it to entrap and kill many of the heavenly spirit world's saints. This caused the heavenly spirit world to be even weaker during the war between the two worlds and was almost breached. After this incident, the spies of the gods' world were afraid that the heavenly spirit world would return an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, blood for blood. They exterminated all the blue moon flowers. But who would have thought that the blue Yuehua would appear again in the Eastern Province 6 Academies Alliance tournament? Tai Wuqing, Leng Xiaoxiao, and the others couldn't help but be shocked. Maybe the heavenly spirit world would lose countless saints again. Of course, they were not in the mood to laugh at Chu Yang's antics. The blue moon flower, from what I saw in the past, the other party did not find it. Chu Yang did not dare to be careless. He said seriously, "Therefore, I cannot be sure if the blue moon flower has been completely exterminated or if there are other blue moon flowers in other places." Chapter 1933. The blue moon flower is of great importance. The Dean of the Myriad Court also spoke up. If you spout nonsense like this and accidentally cause chaos, you won't be able to bear the consequences no matter how capable you are. The other four Dean were also extremely dissatisfied with Chu Yang's casual joke about the blue moon flower. Even Tai Wu Qing and Leng Xiaoxiao couldn't help but frown. Chu Yang didn't feel repulsed by their accusations. After all, they weren't wrong, so even if he didn't like the saint, he wasn't angry. "Can you let me finish?" He spoke again. "They didn't find the blue moon flower, but they found the blue moon grass." Blue moon grass? They had never heard of it before. They were all shocked and couldn't help but look at Chu Yang with a faint warning in their eyes. The blue moon grass is what they used to kill the holy disciples. Chu Yang directly threw out a bomb. Also, according to what I saw, the blue moon grass has a limited effect on the holy disciples, but they're researching it further. I don't know what will happen in the future. What? The Dean of the 6 Great Courts were shocked and asked, "Are you sure?" Let me remind you again, this isn't a child's play. Be careful of trouble. You'd better think carefully before you speak. Otherwise, we'll pass the news on, and you'll be responsible for the consequences. Chu Yang obviously knew that trouble would come when he spoke, so he had great reservations. This matter was related to the central state, but he didn't know the details. If you say so, then of course there is no such thing as blue moon grass. Everything I said just now was just nonsense. Chu Yang cupped his fists and said to them, "Kid, I was joking with you just now, but it wasn't appropriate. Don't apologize before I tell you." At the same time, he secretly transmitted his voice to Tai Wuqing and Ling Xiaoxiao. "Uncles, there is indeed blue moon grass, and it's related to the central state. However, I cherish my life a little, so I hope you can understand." Tai Wuqing and Ling Xiaoxiao's hearts thump. Both of them never thought that there was such a big secret. "Lu San, what do you mean?" "I'll give you a piece of advice. It's best to tell the truth. This is an order, not a discussion." In that instant, the 6 deans' expressions all turned somber. They were clearly threatening Chu Yang. Among the crowd, those who knew about the blue moon flower began to talk about the blue moon flower. Originally, they were in a clamor, but at this time, they suddenly quieted down. Their gazes could not help but all look at Chu Yang. Chu Yang was obviously aware of this, but he had his own reasons for doing so. "Why? Are the heads of the 6th courtyard attacking me?" Chu Yang smiled and said, "Tell me, what crime have I committed? Can't I even crack a joke? You can try it if you want." "Nephew Lu, why are you so angry? Gentlemen, you're going a little overboard. After all, we're the ones who invited Nephew Lu to investigate the case. Isn't it inappropriate for you to behave like this in front of us?" Tai Wuqing and Ling Xiaoxiao intervened. Chu Yang had already told them the truth. How could they turn a blind eye? "Please forgive me, sirs. The heads of the 6th courtyard didn't force him further, but that was only temporary. When Lu San was out of Tai Wuqing and Ling Xiaoxiao's sight, they could do whatever they wanted. There was no need to embarrass them. Nephew Lu, we've cracked a joke. Can we get down to business?" Chu Yang was very satisfied with this result. He nodded and said, "This is not the first crime scene. It may be the 2nd crime scene or even the 3rd crime scene." Tai Wuqing and Ling Xiaoxiao nodded immediately. They had also seen the video that appeared before. Chapter 1934. First, kill the saint and get the saint-level holy fetus. If the culprit was not Chu Yang, it was reasonable, and people naturally agreed. Second, the culprit wants Chu Yang and the people in the Eastern Wilderness to transfer all their hatred to the people in the Eastern Wilderness. Then he will integrate the strength of the 6 great academies, destroy the people in the Eastern Wilderness, and become the leader recognized by the 6 great academies. It was possible, and of course it made sense. Chu Yang was telling the truth, and he was now very sure of it. He was also very sure that the culprit was very ambitious. Third, if the culprit can make the enchanting incense with the blue moon grass, then the next step of the culprit's plan should be to eliminate the leaders and heads of the 6 great academies. When all the obstacles are almost eliminated, the culprit will forcefully integrate the 6 great academies and unify the East continent. This possibility was just Chu Yang's guess, but it was earth-shattering. What? Unify the East continent? Is that possible? Why is it impossible? If all the hypotheses are true, and the saint is dead, the heads are dead, and the leaders of the 6 great academies are all dead, then it's really possible. Maybe it's just a hypothesis. It can't be true. What hypothesis? We know that the blue moon grass exists. Lu San is just dissatisfied with the heads of the 6 great academies. That's why he did that. The crowd was in an uproar, and the voices were louder and louder. What Chu Yang said really scared them, and some of them were even scared out of their wits. The heads of the 6 great academies were so gloomy that they could drip water. Even if the culprit was not Chu Yang or the Eastern Wilderness 002, they originally wanted to push and burn the fire of hatred on the people in the Eastern Wilderness, but this was exactly what the culprit wanted. They almost became the culprit's accomplices, helping the saint to kill them. They were completely fooled by the culprit, but they didn't know it. Good calculation. Really vicious. Such a culprit, we can't let him go. In an instant, the 6 of them gnashed their teeth. After thinking for a moment, they were really scared, and cold sweat broke out on their back. Are you sure? At this time, Fong Polong couldn't help but speak out. He was also completely shocked. Who would have thought that there was such a conspiracy? What do you think? Chu Yang's words made Fong Polong so angry that he gritted his teeth. He couldn't wait to kill Chu Yang. He had already told this bastard that he hated the words, "What do you think?" This is just my assumption. Chu Yang then said to the heads of the sixth courtyard, "Please don't take it too seriously. Maybe these are just meridians." At this moment, the headmasters of the 6 academies seemed to realize that this person was their ancestor. They couldn't afford to offend him at all, and they couldn't pressure him with their status. However, it was already too late. Uncles. Then, Chu Yang sneered at Tai Wuqing and said, "Today, I forced myself to show off. I used the space-time tracing technique. But I couldn't detect anything. Instead, I consumed a lot of my mind and injured my divine soul. I need to recuperate. I ask for your forgiveness, uncles." Swoosh. As soon as Chu Yang finished speaking, he flew away and soon disappeared. However, the headmasters of the 6th courtyard noticed that Fong Polong and Zhang Jian followed him, but they didn't say anything. Of course, everyone knew that Chu Yang had quit. He didn't want to do it anymore. Who wouldn't understand this? Not to mention that there were no benefits. He was also threatened by the heads of the 6 academies. He had also become a thorn in the side of the culprit and was in danger all the time. Anyone would be angry. 6 of you, it's best to stop before going too far. Chapter 1935. As Chu Yang flew quickly, Fong Polong and Zhang Jian followed behind him. He had no choice but to stop. "Do you have anything else to ask? Does the blue moon flower really exist?" If he did not ask so formally, Fong Polong would not feel at ease. "What do you think?" It was these words again. Fong Polong could not help but roar, "King Bastard Chu, I'm a fool, all right? Can you not use these words to make things difficult for my brain?" No. Chu Yang had something to do and did not want to be entangled by Fong Polong anymore. He said directly, "At least, I didn't find out. What I said before was the truth." "Who's the culprit?" Zhang Jian asked. "I don't know." "Then you just..." Before Zhang Jian could finish, Chu Yang said, "Don't you know what it means to deliberately mystify things? You want to trick them so that you can save your big brother." Zhang Jian was shocked. He completely understood Chu Yang's intention. "At least you're not too stupid. You're not like some people who make things so clear and ask so many questions. You're so annoyed." Fong Polong really wanted to smash Chu Yang's face. Is he willing to do this? "It's all because you're too cunning. I trusted you so easily and even helped you count the money after being sold. I'm in a hurry, so I can only trouble the 2 of you." As Chu Yang spoke, he suddenly attacked the 2 of them. 2 large hands grabbed Fong Polong and Zhang Jian. The 2 of them could not resist at all. Fong Polong screamed. His hair was pulled out, but fortunately, he was not stripped naked. Even so, he was still hung up to dry. It was the same for Zhang Jian. Their clothes were still there, but the hair on their heads was no longer there. Chu Yang had pulled out their hair, and their bald heads were dripping with blood. You #yen%%. Not to mention Fong Polong, even Zhang Jian had activated the 3-character classic's divine ability at this time. "I'm doing this for your own good. Just say that I have a saint by my side later." Chu Yang really didn't have time to pay attention to them. After saying this, he left in an instant. How unlucky! Fong Polong was extremely depressed. Of course, he understood Chu Yang's intentions, but this was still too wicked. He was 100% sure that Chu Yang had malicious intentions. Just get it back. Zhang Jian would remember this grudge. "Is there really a saint?" Fong Polong asked Zhang Jian. He could not even withstand a single move from Chu Yang. It was too frustrating. "Who knows?" Zhang Jian was really depressed. It was the first time in his life that he had been abused like this. It was truly unforgettable. When the headmasters of the 6 great academies rushed over and saw the two of them, they immediately asked, "Did he escape? What do you think?" Feng Polong was not in a good mood. If it were not for the 6 of them, how could Chu Yang find an excuse to pluck out their hair and even hang them up to dry? Fortunately, they were not stripped naked. Otherwise, they would not be able to live anymore. The two of you are no match for him at all. The headmasters of the 6 great academies were truly shocked. What do you think? Feng Polong suddenly liked those words. He felt very good after saying it out loud. This is the treatment of a friend, understand? Who in the Zhongtian mountain ranges 6 great academies did not know about stripping them naked and hanging them up to dry. The 6 headmasters naturally understood as well. Feng Polong and Zhang Jian had obviously been pardoned, and the most humiliating part was saved. Is Lu San really that shocking? The 6 of them were still in disbelief. A saint. Zhang Jian threw out these 2 words, which were more useful than 1,000 words. Immediately, the 6 headmasters were dumbfounded. They finally understood why Lu San and the others dared to give up so easily. Chapter 1936. Now, can you put the 2 of us down? We'll do our best until we die. I, Feng Polong, am a bastard. Feng Polong cursed loudly. The Academy Master of the Heavenly Sword Academy glared at him before he stopped. There's indeed the aura of a saint, the Saint Master said. He was proficient in spatial techniques, and was the first among the 6 of them to sense that there was a trace of an extremely weak saint's aura left in the space. If they attacked Lu San, it would be unimaginable. It seems that Lu San is not an ordinary person? You only found out now? Feng Polong and Zhang Jian had been put down by the Academy Master of the Heavenly Sword Academy. Feng Polong immediately retorted. He did not have a good impression of the Saint Master and the others. He even blamed them for him being stripped naked and hung up to dry. What else? He doesn't have a family background, so how can he be proficient in the art of solving cases? Zhang Jian also expressed his dissatisfaction, causing their expressions to turn ugly. Impudent. The Academy Master of the Heavenly Sword Academy was furious. Feng Polong and Zhang Jian were too impudent, but that was all. The other 5 Academy Masters did not pursue the matter. After all, it was their fault. They could understand Feng Polong and Zhang Jian's resentment. During the 6 Academies Alliance competition, the students of the 6 academies gathered at the Zhongtian mountain range. It was also the place where Chu Yang was secretly threatened by the enemy. Chu Yang had already appeared there. Yi Yu also appeared there. Before Yi Yu left, Chu Yang had secretly sent a voice transmission to Yi Yu and threatened him. He said that he would wait for Yi Yu here. If Yi Yu did not come, he would have to bear the consequences. What's your request? As soon as they met, Yi Yu spoke. He seemed to be a little anxious because the matter was no longer under their control. If Chu Yang exposed their conspiracy, the consequences would be unbearable. At the very least, Yi Yu's master would not be able to bear it. Is it very direct? Chu Yang sneered. But before that, you should take a look at my true appearance. That way, you won't have to ask anymore. Chu Yang used the celestial demon walking art to change Lu San's appearance back to his original appearance. He then said, "How is it? Do you understand now? Every dog has its day, and it's my turn this year." "It's you!" Kaka. Yi Yu realized that Lu San was Chu Yang. After a moment of shock, he gritted his teeth and said hatefully, "I should have thought of it earlier. What the hell did he think of? He never thought that this wild dog would be able to solve the situation like this." At this moment, both old and new hatred welled up in Yi Yu's heart. Yi Yu's eyes were almost scarlet. The 2 brothers, Chu Fei and Chu Yang, seemed to have been born to oppose him. They were his natural enemies. "If I kill you, all the secrets will be hidden. Yi Yu really wanted to kill Chu Yang, this wild dog, at any cost. But he did not dare to, no matter how deep his hatred for Chu Yang was. Can you not say such stupid things? Chu Yang chuckled. I asked you to meet here, and you dared to come. Do you think I didn't have any preparations? Let's not talk about anything else. If I follow your wishes and let you kill me, will the secret be buried? Chu Yang had already made arrangements. How could Yi Yu not understand? If Chu Yang gave the secret to someone and told him that once he died, the secret would be revealed immediately. Just this alone was enough. It was enough for Yi Yu to beg for death. The person behind him definitely wouldn't let him off. Tell me your conditions. Yi Yu forced himself to suppress his anger and began to negotiate. What was different was that Chu Yang was the one who had allowed him to do as he pleased before. This time it was Chu Yang. It was really as Chu Yang said earlier. Every dog has its day. Now it was his turn to be threatened. Chapter 1937. You can say the second one. Yi Yu clenched his teeth, his heart filled with hatred. He completely understood how Chu Yang felt before. The second one is a saint-level divine fetus. Chu Yang naturally wanted a divine fetus. Is there nothing else? Do I need to have anything else? You don't have any objections if we continue to kill saints. Why should I have any objections? Yi Yu was so angry that he almost spat out blood. In order to weaken the wild dog in the middle of the 6 great colleges, they had spent so much effort, but in the end, it all benefited Chu Yang. Yi Yu also knew all the assumptions Chu Yang made about the 6 great colleges' headmasters. Otherwise, he wouldn't have acted like this. How can I trust you? What if I do as we agreed, but you get what you want and immediately go back on your word? Yi Yu threw out such a question, an extremely difficult question. He needed Chu Yang to give him a reason that he could trust. Chu Yang had a plan in mind, but at this moment, he hesitated. Thoughts flashed in his mind and he said to himself, if I'm not careful, and there's a mistake in my answer, once I'm caught by the other party will be able to see through me instantly. That would be bad. He pretended not to care and said indifferently, are you sure you can agree with my method? So, this is your problem. Don't push it to me, understand? We have no choice. Yi Yu said directly, we have no choice but to trust you. Haha. Chu Yang just smiled in his trademark way, but he thought to himself, does the other party really have no choice, or is this a test? If he simply believed Yi Yu's words and proposed his plan, he might have fallen into the other party's trap. Until now, Chu Yang still didn't know who was behind the scenes. This was a fatal flaw. He also began to test. So, you've already made your choice, right? Then, please. With that, Chu Yang turned and left. Yi Yu immediately said coldly, Chu Yang, are you going to fight to the death? We don't have a way to gain your trust. If you want to save your big brother, you should find a way to make us believe in you. They really didn't seem to have a solution. Chu Yang turned around very slowly, but his mind was racing. No, it can't be like this. How could they possibly accept my suggestion? How could they possibly believe it? If he were in the other party's shoes, he would definitely not use the method proposed by the enemy, because who knew whether the enemy had set a trap or not? In other words, this is still a test from the other side? Every problem had its own solution. No matter how difficult it was, there would always be a solution. Chu Yang believed in his own judgment. But when he turned around and looked at Yi Yu with a cold smile, he still couldn't find a way to refute him. You think you're the smartest person in the world and everyone else is a fool? He sneered and tried to stall for time. While he was thinking of a solution in his mind, a name suddenly jumped out, Nangong Xing. Immediately, his mind shook and he secretly exclaimed, Nangong Xing should be the scapegoat that they prepared beforehand. From the very beginning, there were clues that pointed to the culprit being Nangong Xing from the Plenitude sect. The Plenitude sect had a grudge against Chu Yang. Also, Zhang Jian's clue was even more direct. The information obtained from the Ice Kuan's investigation of the barren village didn't count, because the other party didn't know that he had a saint by his side. This is definitely not a casual move. The other party has already prepared for it. Chu Yang was even more convinced. Before the victory, the defeat was already considered. If such a big plan failed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Didn't the other party think about how to deal with it if they failed? Chapter 1938. If you're an idiot, what am I? Yi Yu's expression didn't change. He continued, "It's true that we don't have a solution. If you insist on doing this, then we can only go our separate ways. But I guarantee that your brother will suffer a fate worse than death." Buzz. Chu Yang was suddenly enraged. He was like a lion that had eaten its fill and was completely enraged after being provoked. He immediately exploded with great majesty. His gaze was extremely sharp, and circles of ripples appeared in the void. "Why don't you give it a try?" Humph. Chu Yang was tough, but Yi Yu was even tougher. He snorted and said, "What, are you here to be unreasonable? Did you just realize?" Chu Yang pointed directly at Yi Yu. "In the face of absolute power, all schemes and tricks are useless. You should learn your lesson." Yi Yu's face couldn't help but become ferocious. "How dare you show your face to me?" Slap. Chu Yang swung his sleeves, causing the air to explode. Then he turned around and left. After a while, Yi Yu's voice came from behind him. "Chu Yang, do you really want to hurt both of us?" "Hurt both of us?" Chu Yang laughed and turned around. "This thing won't hurt both of us. Later, your master will directly kneel in front of me, and you will pay the price for your cleverness." Whoosh! Chu Yang flew away, but then he said, "Don't worry, your master can find me. Also, tell him that my patience is not good." "You win, crack." Chu Yang heard the sound of teeth clenching, but he didn't turn around. Of course, he also did not see that Yi Yu's 2 teeth had actually cracked from clenching so hard. It was inconceivable, and this should also be very illogical, but such a thing actually happened. Seems like he knows everything. After Chu Yang disappeared, an extremely tall and thin man appeared beside Yi Yu. He was at least 4 or 5 times taller than Yi Yu, so tall that he was a little deformed. Yi Yu didn't answer. He kept roaring and blood flowed out of his mouth. "Sigh, seems like we can only compromise." The tall man sighed. "Gong Sun Shou." Yi Yu yelled at the man, "I told you to keep an eye on this son of a bitch. Is this what you're doing?" There was no point in pursuing the matter after the fact, but Yi Yu understood this principle. However, he needed to vent, or else he would die from anger, humiliation, and suffocation. "Indeed, it's my fault." Gong Sun Shou admitted that this was his responsibility, but he was very sullen. He had clearly reported to Yi Yu that he had lost Chu Yang's trail. At that time, Yi Yu didn't care much about it. He only emphasized that he should continue to look for Chu Yang. But now, all the responsibilities were pushed onto him. Perhaps he never thought of it. He looked at Yi Yu's distorted face, his cracked teeth, and his mouth full of blood. He sighed in his heart. At that time, Yi Yu was so happy and playful, but in just a short time, he had completely changed. "Even if you want to kill me, you have to wait until I'm done." "What's the use of killing you?" Yi Yu was hysterical. After venting for a while, he slowly calmed down and said to Gong Sun Shou coldly, "Act according to the plan. I don't want you to make any more mistakes." "Do I dare?" Gong Sun Shou mocked in his heart, but he didn't say anything. He immediately left to carry out the plan. 2 hours later, the news that Nangong Xing had hidden a lot of blue moon herbs was exposed, and it instantly caused an uproar in the 6 great academies. The death of the holy disciple was immediately pointed at Nangong Xing, and more news was exposed. Nangong Xing was surrounded by the students of the 6 great academies and was about to be captured. Nangong Shing fought his way out of the encirclement and escaped. His whereabouts were unknown. Nangong Shing was found dead, and it was suspected that he committed suicide to escape punishment. Chapter 1939. Although Nangong Shing was the new star of the Plenitude Court, how could his cultivation be compared to that of a saint? How could he cause such a commotion? However, everything made sense because Nangong Shing had the blue moon grass, which could knock out a half-saint. It was not impossible for him to kill a saint. I never expected that the star of the Plenitude Court, Nangong Shing, who killed so many saints. This is too surprising. It's just Nangong Shing, but he caused so much trouble and made everyone panic. But is the murderer really Nangong Shing? How is it impossible? I heard that Nangong Shing is very godly. I also heard that before Beiqinshing died, he predicted that he would become a star soon. Chu Yang changed his appearance and blended into the crowd. He sneered when he heard this and thought to himself, my guess was right. They were prepared. Nangong Shing was very godly. This was worth pondering. According to my reasoning, Nangong Shing is indeed the most suitable. The Plenitude Court has a grudge against Eastern Wilderness 002. If Chu Yang from the Plenitude Court was Eastern Wilderness 002, he could logically kill Chu Yang. Then, he would take advantage of the situation and label Chu Yang as the murderer. Nangong Shing would definitely become the hero of the 6 great schools after solving such a big problem. He would become the leader of the 6 great schools. He would lead the 6 great schools to encircle the people in the Eastern Wilderness. This would further enhance his leadership and gain more recognition. That's a good idea. If he kills all the leaders and court masters of the 6 great schools and then steps forward to catch the so-called murderer, he would become a hero again. At that time, his appeal would be indescribable. It would be possible for him to integrate the 6 great schools and unify the East continent. Therefore, Chu Yang was not very surprised. Public opinion seemed to be easy to manipulate, not to mention that his opponent was not ordinary. Until now, he still did not know who his real opponent was. This is a wonderful move. He couldn't help but smile proudly, but his smile gradually disappeared. Everything might not go as he wished, and his opponent might still have a trick up his sleeve. While Chu Yang was thinking about his opponent's countermeasures, he heard another shocking piece of news. The Saint Embryo has been stolen. The Saint Embryo has been stolen. Such news was not heard from the crowd, but from someone shouting loudly. The loud and clear voice directly entered Chu Yang's eardrums. Boom! Such news was like a deep-water bomb. This, brother, is what you said true? That's right. The Saint Embryo is such an important item, so it must be carefully guarded. How could it be stolen so easily? Are you crazy? Many people were shocked, not daring to believe this. There were even some who went over to touch this person's forehead. If it wasn't true, would I dare to talk about it? Just as this person finished speaking, a narcissist immediately shouted, "The sacred embryo was stolen, the sacred embryo was actually stolen." When this voice rang out again, everyone who was in shock had no choice but to believe it. Immediately there was an uproar. What swift action! Chu Yang was also surprised. He suspected that it was very likely that it was an internal theft. If that was the case, the other party was definitely a high-ranking member of the 6 great schools and had an extraordinary status. The news spread so quickly. Are they telling me that they've already taken action and that I should calm down? Or is this just a kind of paralysis on my part? Or are they going to make things difficult for me when I go to pick up Big Brother and take the sacred embryo? Chapter 1940. When he heard the other explanation for Tai Wu Qing and Sneer's departure, his heart skipped a beat. A major case had happened in the Central State, and the two had been urgently transferred to the Central State. The so-called major case in the Central region was just a pretext. This completely proved that the other party was indeed related to the central state, and had a shocking background. Chu Yang did not have enough time to react to the sudden change, and he was caught off guard. Tai Wu Qing and Sneer's departure made him lose a great support, and no one would believe him if he said anything. He could no longer use Lu San's identity, as it would be exposed by the other party. It could be said that to him, this was no different from taking drastic measures. Chu Yang's biggest drawback was that it was difficult for him to gain the trust of the people of the 6 great academies, and the higher-ups of the 6 great academies were all hostile to him. The other party's actions could be said to have directly grabbed his weak spot. I can't just sit here and wait for death. After thinking for a while, he directly used his 4 doppelgangers to spread the news. Soon, different voices spread among the students of the 6 great academies, but the people who discussed it were very careful. Have you heard? Nangong Xing is just a scapegoat, the real culprit is someone else. Don't talk nonsense, or you won't even know when you'll die. What nonsense are you talking about? But what you said is true. If they hear it, I might die in some gutter, and I might even be charged with a great crime. Just pretend I didn't say anything. This was Chu Yang's original body. After he spread the news, he further led the way. After that, he was about to leave, but he was quickly called out. Hey, brother, you've already said it. That's right, we're just listening, we don't dare to talk about it. Don't worry, we won't tell anyone about you. Hearing this, Chu Yang immediately smiled. I'm not afraid even if you spread the news about me. I'm not the only one who knows about this, as long as I don't talk about it further. After all, there are so many people, can the culprit find all of them? His true body left immediately. His heavenly soul world avatar came and asked the crowd carefully, Nangong Xing is just a scapegoat. Is this true? Immediately, someone among the crowd said, we also just heard this news. If that's the case, then I'll go elsewhere and ask around. Chu Yang's heavenly spirit world avatar was about to leave when he was stopped. Brother, don't worry. Since you're already here, why don't you tell everyone about it? Chu Yang's heavenly soul world avatar, faced with the eager gazes of the crowd, could not help but say happily, I heard that because of Lu San, the murderer has already made a cut, so he found a scapegoat. In addition, the theft of the sacred fetus is very likely to be an inside job. The culprit should be someone with a high status in our 6 great academies. Is what you said reliable? Chu Yang's heavenly soul world avatar looked around carefully and whispered, I don't know if it's reliable or not, but I know that the 2 super arresters of the central state have been forcibly transferred away. The power of the murderer is extremely frightening. Under Chu Yang's deliberate guidance, such a scene continued to play out. He succeeded in guiding the public opinion, and his heart calmed down a little, and he let out a long breath. Let's see if they value their lives, and if they dare to take the risk. After that, after a long period of contemplation, he let out a long breath and set off to meet Yi Yu. The good ending was that he saved his elder brother and got the sacred fetus. The bad ending was that he could not even save his elder brother, let alone the sacred fetus, and he might even die. Chapter 1941. It was the same place, the same people. Chu Yang had arrived, and so had Yi Yu. The world was silent. There was no wind, no roars of monsters, and the sound of running water in the distance seemed to be extremely weak. At this moment, everything in the world seemed to be waiting for something important to happen. Master, there are many people on the other side, but I didn't notice anything unusual. Bing Kuan immediately told Chu Yang about the surrounding situation. Although there were many people on the other side, those people were not enough for Chu Yang. Have you seen my big brother and the others? Chu Yang was a little relieved. Yes. Bing Kuan said, there are a total of 3 people and a little beast. How are they? Chu Yang was naturally concerned about this. They are in excellent condition. The Ice Kuan couldn't help but laugh. Master, you're intact. These 4 words seem to be very lethal. That's good. Chu Yang continued. I hope this time it will go smoothly and there won't be any twists and turns. Bing Kuan understood. The sacred fetus, killing enemies, and so on were not important to Chu Yang. They were even worthless. Chu Yang cared most about the safety of his big brother and the others. Where are they? Chu Yang spoke with an indifferent expression. You didn't say anything. He just waved his hand, and someone immediately escorted Chu Fei, Saint Child Zither Sound, Silver Wolf, and Xiao Guai over. Little brother. Third brother. Senior brother. After the big brother, Saint Child Zither Sound, and Silver Wolf exclaimed, Xiao Guai's voice also sounded. They were extremely shocked when they saw Chu Yang. They finally understood why they were still alive. Turned out that they were used to threaten Chu Yang. Little brother, don't worry about us. Chu Fei's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets as he roared. Senior brother, go. Silver Wolf's face was full of guilt, and his reaction was even worse. He directly roared mournfully. Third brother, don't be soft-hearted. Saint Child Zither Music also shouted. Little Guai naturally didn't fall behind. When its soft and tender voice fell into Chu Yang's ears, he felt very close to it. He couldn't help but smile. Looking at the anxious looks on the faces of his brothers, he felt a surge of warmth in his heart. He thought to himself, these are the family members of yours truly's brothers. Only with their existence can yours truly's life have meaning. Big brother, second brother, little wolf, little Guai, don't worry. Chu Yang smiled and said, there won't be any danger. Don't worry. His confident smile caused Chu Fei and the rest to quiet down. Seeing Chu Yang again, it felt like a lifetime had passed. At this moment, they were shocked to discover that the Chu Yang in front of them was no longer the Chu Yang from before. His words and actions faintly revealed a sense of grandeur and great confidence. He stood in the air as if he was the ruler of this world. Thus, with just one sentence from him, their hearts settled down. Little brother, you've already grown to this extent? No wonder these people didn't dare to do anything to us and could only use us to threaten you. Chu Fei's heart was in turmoil, and he couldn't help but feel extremely proud. This was his little brother, Chu Fei's little brother. Saint Child Zither Music, Silver Wolf, and Lil Guai also felt the same way. They felt proud because of Chu Yang, and their faces were filled with boundless glory. Is this necessary? Chu Yang's warm smile suddenly turned incomparably cold and murderous when he looked at Yi. This was indeed not necessary. Yi was only here to release them. Let them go. Chapter 1942. In an instant, Chu Fei couldn't help but stop in midair. The Zither Sound Saint Child, the Silver Wolf, and Lil Guai were released and flew to Chu Yang's side. Chu Fei, do you have anything to say? Yi looked at Chu Fei. Although his expression was calm, his voice was full of resentment. Or, are you provoking me? He was very sensitive. Chu Fei was only stunned for a moment. I regret not killing you back then and only chopping off your legs. Chu Fei couldn't help but grit his teeth. His little brother had paid a great price to save him and Lil Guai. Ha ha! Yi involuntarily laughed out loud when he saw Chu Fei's regretful expression. He said, what you should regret is not this, but this sentence, in the face of absolute strength, everything else is fleeting clouds. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Yang said calmly, is that wrong? Chu Fei and the others couldn't help but be shocked. They realized that Chu Yang was really domineering. He actually didn't care about Yi's feelings and wasn't afraid of angering Yi. Whoosh! Yi's calm face instantly became like a ferocious ghost. The faint light in his eyes was suffused with a scarlet light. He said coldly, didn't you feel the danger? I did feel it. Chu Yang smiled again. But so what? Do you plan to do this thing? Chu Fei and the others couldn't hear any hint of compromise from these words. However, they could hear that the other party was being threatened by their little brother. They were extremely shocked. It seems that little brother is extraordinarily shocking. I'm afraid that he has completely exceeded my expectations. A look of surprise flashed across Chu Fei's face. When he thought of what Chu Yang had done in the East Continent, he couldn't help but laugh at himself. Little brother is no longer the little brother of the past. The moment he stepped into the East Continent, perhaps he had completely exceeded my imagination. Crack! Only the sound of Yi Yu gnashing his teeth could be heard. Where's the sacred embryo? Chu Yang asked again. He was too lazy to care about Yi Yu's resentment. Give him the saint embryo, Yi Yu roared. Soon after, someone brought over an egg-shaped stone. It was as tall as a person, and there were 9 apertures on it. There was a faint human figure inside, but demonic energy was roiling about it. The most shocking thing was that on the egg-shaped stone there were numerous seals. Each seal was emitting an aura of pure yang. Moreover, there were many auras mixed together. It should not be a single person's seal, but a seal set up by many experts. These seals firmly sealed the 9 orifices on the stone, preventing the 9 orifices from absorbing the essence of heaven and earth. They also cut off the connection between the sacred embryo and heaven and earth. Even so, there was still an endless amount of evil qi and demonic qi surging out. In just an instant, that expanse of space was dyed black, causing that area to become incomparably evil and gloomy. Chu Yang passed through the billowing evil qi and demonic qi and instantly felt an extremely powerful, vigorous, and evil life force. It was as if there was a ferocious demon lurking inside. Once it broke out of the seal, it would wreak havoc in the human world, causing blood to flow like rivers and people to be plunged into misery and suffering. He even felt that the evil qi and demonic qi could corrupt people's minds, causing them to fall into the demonic path and completely become a demon. How was this a sacred embryo? It was practically a demonic embryo. Kiki! Yi Yu's ferocious expression instantly became playful and malicious. Chapter 1943. Also, I'll tell you more details. This was originally a saint fetus, but it was brought into hell by a demon, causing it to be stained with the blood of many demon gods. Now, it's at its most ferocious. You must be careful. Little brother, no. Chu Fei was horrified. Senior brother, if you want to save us, you have to take the demon fetus. We might as well die. Once the demon fetus is born, it will definitely bring disaster to the world, the saint child said after Chu Fei and the silver wolf. Yi Yu looked at Chu Fei and sneered. Don't you have ears? Your little brother wants it himself. Don't you understand human language? Little brother wanted it himself, not forced. Chu Fei and the rest were stunned. Then, they couldn't help but look at Chu Yang in astonishment. Such a demon fetus was a disaster. If people knew that Chu Yang had such a demon fetus, he would become the public enemy of the world. But why did Chu Yang want this demon fetus? Chu Yang gave his trademark chuckle. He opened his hand and released a suction force. He directly sucked the devil fetus into his own heavenly abode. Thank you, thank you. Others might be afraid, but would Chu Yang be? Big brother, let's go. Chu Yang didn't want to waste any more time. He left with Chu Fei and the others. From beginning to end, what he was worried about didn't happen. Yi Yu and the others didn't have any intention of causing trouble. As soon as Chu Yang left, Gongsun Shou, who was beside Yi Yu, said, "You're letting these wild dog go just like that? Then what do you want?" Yi Yu sneered. "We've already found a scapegoat." "It's totally what?" Yi Yu interrupted. "You think that bastard didn't have a backup plan? Is he that stupid to send himself over for you to chop? If he could do that, he would have died 10,000 times already." Gongsun Shou really wanted to slap himself in the face. He was actually stupid to this extent. When it came to hating those wild dog, who could compare to Yi Yu? What if Wild Dog betrays us? What should we do? Gong Sun Shou asked again. Chu Yang was worried, but so were Yi Yu and the others. The Blue Moon grass matter was far more serious than Chu Yang's. Do you think I'm a fool? Yi Yu laughed coldly again. Now that the sacred embryo has been stolen, the sacred embryo is in his hands. It is a great weakness for him. If he dares to betray us, he will not be able to escape. Gong Sun Shou immediately understood why Yi Yu wanted to steal the holy embryo and not use other methods. He also understood why they couldn't trick the wild dog. It was because the wild dog had given them a handle at the very beginning. In fact, Chu Yang had not thought of this. Does that bastard think it's easy to get the demon embryo? He's just waiting to be scalded into a piece of cooked meat. Yi Yu gritted his teeth and spoke again. His voice was so terrifying that Gong Sun Shou couldn't help but shudder. He even had goosebumps all over his body. Let's go. Yi Yu also left with his people. Soon after, the Dean of the 6 Great Academies announced that the holy disciples of the 6 Great Academies had been killed, and the murderer was Nangong Xing of the Wanxiang courtyard. Nangong Xing had been killed, and this matter had basically come to an end. As the competition of the 6 academies continued, the matter of the saints being killed gradually died down. In addition, a group of students fought for the doppelganger divine fruit, and the saints were killed. However, this matter was gradually forgotten. It could be said that this matter was hastily settled. Although many people had doubts, who had the ability and dared to investigate. As for why this was the case, no one knew the true reason. Chapter 1944. Chu Yang reunited with Chu Fei and the others. Needless to say, he was overjoyed. He quickly understood the strength of his big brother and the others. Chu Fei was in the 7th level of the Transcendence Realm, while the Saint Child was in the 6th level of the Transcendence Realm. The Silver Wolf was at the peak of the 9th level of the Soul Amalgamation Realm. He was stuck at this stage because he wanted to form the Celestial Lord Dharma idol. Little Guai was only in the 1st level of the Soul Amalgamation Realm, but it was the most shocking. Little Guai's rainbow divine light was even more shocking than Chu Yang's when he didn't transform the 5 elements into lightning technique. It also had 5 clones: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth clones. This was also the most shocking thing. Its 5 clones were the same as Chu Yang's clones. As long as they weren't completely destroyed, they could form new ones. Such indestructible characteristics were built on the basis of the 5 elements' mutual generation. As long as one of the 5 elements still existed, the other 4 could be restored through the mutual generation of the 5 elements. As for how they were captured, the process was very simple. The Silver Wolf wanted to worship its ancestors and fell into the Star Academy's ambush. Needless to say, Nangong Xing was indeed shocking and had a deep plan. However, the main reason was still a coincidence. Nangong Xing knew that Chu Yang was more proficient in the 7 kneels of the Celestial Lords than Beiqianxing, so he guessed that Chu Yang might be a descendant of the Celestial Lords and set up an ambush. However, if the Silver Wolf wasn't a descendant of the Celestial Lords, none of this would have happened. Chu Yang understood their current situation. Chu Fei and the others naturally understood Chu Yang's current situation. Therefore, they couldn't help but admit that Chu Yang had a heavy burden on his shoulders. He actually carried the hope of everyone in the eastern wilderness. This was an almost unbearable weight. Little brother, you've grown up. Chu Fei originally wanted to remind Chu Yang to be careful, but he couldn't say it. The current Chu Yang was no longer someone he could worry about. Instead, it was his younger brother who needed to worry about him. Thus, in the end, all of his words were reduced to this one sentence. Brother Fei, can you pay attention to your words? Chu Yang rubbed his nose and said, I'm a heaven-defying martial artist now. You're making people think of how weak I am, and those unbearable past events. After hearing Chu Yang's narcissistic look, Little Guai hugged its stomach, laughing, to say, it rolled on the ground. Ha ha! Chu Fei's smile, it was the silver wolf's Tu's face to the celestial heavens. Can't tu, little guais to guai, ntus to say, guai to be. No, Silver Wolf said while panting with rage. Chu Yang's kick wasn't light at all. It made him grimace in pain. Chu Yang glared at him. If you can't, I'll lock you in the dog cage. When you smile as brightly as a dog's tail flower in the dog cage, I'll let you out to take revenge. The Silver Wolf was so scared that he jumped up. He knew about the dog cage because he had heard about what happened to Wang Bushang's mother, so he was very clear about it. Senior brother, I emphasize that I'm a wolf, not a dog. Wolf? You still know that you're a wolf, not a sheep. Chu Yang kicked the Silver Wolf again. Fuck, when a wolf meets an enemy, it will at least bare its teeth and not be sad all the time. Look at your sad face. Even Tai Bai Jinxing's uncle wants to climb out of his coffin and bring you into the coffin so that you don't embarrass him. Bullshit, Tai Bai Jinxing is your grandfather, not your uncle. I said he's my uncle, so he's my uncle. What? Are you still not convinced? Chu Yang clenched his fists so tightly that they cracked. The Silver Wolf shrank back, but he still emphasized, don't mess up the seniority. Chapter 1945. Bang, bang, bang. Because the Silver Wolf had a sullen face, he had completely thrown away all of his previous shamelessness. He had completely lost the face of the people of our generation. So, he was directly beaten up by Chu Yang. Then, he entered the 7 wheels of demons. Damn it, I'm so sad. I'm guilty of this. The Silver Wolf's face was bruised and swollen. He gritted his teeth in pain and cursed, You bastard Chu, I'll remember this. I'll beat you until you call me Grandpa in the future. When he activated the 3-character classic, Chu Fei and the Saint Child laughed. It was really useful. Your revenge is just a piece of shit. When Chu Fei spoke, the Silver Wolf immediately glared. How could his revenge be a piece of shit? This was a typical insult. It's indeed a piece of shit, the Saint Child said. Third brother is going to conquer the East Continent. Isn't your revenge a piece of shit? That's how you explain it. The Silver Wolf's eyes widened even more. Then, he couldn't help but laugh. Haha, it's indeed a piece of shit. A piece of shit, it's not a big deal. You should know that your third sister-in-law is from the Central Continent, Chu Fei suddenly said. The Silver Wolf was stunned again. He understood Chu Fei very well. The East Continent was not Chu Yang's destination. It was just a station that he passed by. His senior brother's destination was at least the Central Continent. That's right, the Saint Child also laughed. Yeah. Xiao Guai was also excited and clamored to call his sister-in-law. Haha, as expected of my senior brother. If the Silver Wolf's laughter was not satisfying enough, at this moment, he was full of joy and confidence. At this time, Chu Yang had already entered the 7 Wheels Demon Realm. Although the 7 Wheels Demon Realm had sunk, it was not difficult for Chu Yang to enter because of his connection with the demonic bell and the Ice Kuan Saint. Dang, dang, dang. The pleasant sound of the bell immediately rang. The demonic bell in the deepest part of the 7 Wheels Demon Realm sensed Chu Yang's arrival and laughed cheerfully like a child seeing its parent. Good girl. Chu Yang gently stroked the demonic bell and felt the close connection with it. He couldn't help but smile. The demonic bell's original intelligence had been destroyed, and this newly born intelligence was now like a child. A dominator weapon! At this moment, Bing Kuan was also extremely shocked. He never thought that his master would have such a divine weapon. Then, he said, it's a pity that it has been severely injured and its power has been greatly reduced. However, with this demonic bell, it would be very easy to kill a saint. It was just that it would be very difficult for Chu Yang to activate it. After communicating with the Devil Bell for a while, Chu Yang transmitted his experiences in the God's world and the martial laws of the God's world into the Devil Bell before taking out the Devil Fetus. Rumble. The Devil Fetus emerged from Chu Yang's grotto heaven. As soon as it appeared in the seven-wheeled demonic domain, it seemed to be stimulated by the dense devil chi in the seven-wheeled demonic domain. All of a sudden, the evil chi and devil chi surged out like a tide, making rumbling sounds. However, they were all instantly devoured by the Devil Bell, leaving not a single drop behind. Ha ha! Chu Yang laughed. Yi Yu and his group thought that the so-called evil demons could stop me. They don't know that I am the ancestor of demons. For many people, the demon gods were extremely terrifying and supreme existences. There was only infinite fear for them. However, Chu Yang, who had the Destiny Twins' martial souls, was an exception. He could easily collect the seven soul origins of the Dark Demon Emperor in the Seven Wheels demon realm and refine them into his own demon soul, let alone the Devil Fetus. Chapter 1946. Now that the seal is open, I want to see how powerful this demon fetus of yours is. You better not disappoint me. Clang! Clang! Chu Yang's mind flickered and the demonic bell rang. The sound waves hit the devil fetus directly. At that moment, the two demonic powers merged into one and attacked the seal on the devil fetus. Bang! 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 Yi Yu and the others had obviously tampered with the seal on the devil fetus. The power of the seal was gradually weakening. Under such attacks, it was impossible for the seal not to break. It kept exploding. Amidst the continuous explosions, the seals that were blown open contained the profound meanings and laws of many experts. They were all decomposed and became ownerless. These profound meanings were like scattered troop. Chu Yang began to absorb these scattered soldiers. He swallowed fiercely, and all the profound meanings were swallowed into his stomach, entering his heavenly abode immediately. Rumble! In an instant, the void behind him surged. As it surged, numerous illusory figures appeared. At this moment, many profound meanings poured into Chu Yang. It was as if there were more than 100 experts guiding him in his cultivation. His body emitted rays of light. There were even rays of light that kept extending. Finally, the tendrils of laws disappeared into the void. Chu Yang's original comprehension of laws had improved. This caused his third paradise to transform into a godhead. He almost couldn't suppress his cultivation base, and was about to break through. He forcibly suppressed this enormous power like a volcano erupting. It was extremely strenuous. It took him a while to completely stabilize. There were more than 100 seals on the devil fetus. After all of them exploded, the devil chi and ferocious aura inside the devil fetus burst out. Squeak! Squeak! The devil fetus flew into the air and emitted a sharp and ear-piercing sound. It was like the sound of a mouse's teeth. It was also like the sound of a demon chewing on a corpse. It was very terrifying. In the deepest part of the devil fetus, there seemed to be a mass of flesh and blood wriggling. There seemed to be millions of strong life forces that were fighting fiercely like poisonous insects. The sharp, ear-piercing, and mournful sound came from that lump of flesh. According to Yi Yu, it contained the essence blood of countless demonic gods. Now that the seal had been broken, they were fighting each other. The final victor would obtain the holy embryo and use it to be revived. A drop of blood can be reborn. Although it looks like a drop of blood essence, it contains the purest origin of countless demon gods. This is really too good for me. Yi Yu and the others probably never thought of this. Ha! Chu Yang laughed heartily. He finally knew why the 6 great academies used the devil fetus as a reward for the competition. This devil fetus was too troublesome and too difficult to subdue. If those dead holy disciples knew about this, they would probably die from anger again. They had actually lost their lives because of this. Yi Yu and the others were naturally the same, but they didn't know that their actions were actually helping Chu Yang. Ha ha! The more Chu Yang thought about it, the happier he was. He laughed and said, "It's really effortless. I racked my brains and racked my brains before, but in the end I still couldn't get it. Now I got it easily." This was a devil fetus at the Sage Realm. According to the combat strength that Chu Yang had shown before, he had stirred up the entire Sky Academy before reaching the Dharma characteristic realm. When he had a sage's incarnation, who wouldn't be afraid of him? Once he had a sage's incarnation, even if the 6 great academies were hostile to him, they could only endure it and be careful. They didn't want to provoke him and cause him to kill and stir up trouble. It was expected that he could suppress the East Continent and change the East Continent. Chapter 1947. With the seal removed, the devil fetus erupted. On the egg-shaped stone, the 9 orifices began to crazily devour the demonic energy and essence energy within the 7 wheels. The demonic energy and essence energy of the 7 wheels demonic realm were like waves, surging from all directions. Clang, clang, clang. The demonic bell raged like a child, as if it had discovered that there were millions of candies in the devil fetus, or that its cheese had been touched by the devil fetus. The bell vibrated, and endless sound waves rushed into the devil fetus. In an instant, the mass of blood in the devil fetus was like the various forces of a country that had suddenly encountered an external enemy and stopped fighting. Then, they gathered into a rope to resist the external enemy. This mass of blood and flesh quickly turned into a demonic figure. This figure was majestic and fearful, as if the earth couldn't bear it and the sky couldn't be higher. Chu Yang was slightly shocked. The demonic bell was left behind by the Dark Demon Emperor, and it was extremely shocking. The devil fetus was filled with the blood essence left behind by the Dark Demon Emperor, but it didn't fear the demonic bell at all. This could only mean that these demon gods were probably at the same level as the Dark Demon Emperor. Clang, clang. The ringing of the bell became even more urgent and intense. The loud ringing of the bell caused the entire 7 wheels demonic territory to shake. Chu Fei and the others who were outside felt that the ground was shaking, and the source of the tremors was precisely where Chu Yang was. "What is little brother doing? Why is there such a big commotion?" Chu Fei was shocked. The earthquake was so violent that he couldn't stand on the ground and had to fly into the air. The Zither Sound Saint frowned and said, "He should be refining the devil fetus. It must be very dangerous." Xiao Guai immediately showed a worried expression, but it was soon despised by the Silver Wolf. "Xiao Guai, what are you worried about? You should know that that is my senior brother, the famous Chu Wudi in the Eastern Wilderness." The Silver Wolf was indeed not very worried. According to Chu Yang's temperament, he definitely wouldn't make a move if he wasn't certain. "That's true." Chu Fei suddenly laughed. "Little brother, it's not something we can measure. So, what seems shocking to us is probably normal to him." The Zither Sound Saint couldn't help but nod. Then, they found that the earthquake soon stopped. Within the 7 wheels devil realm, the devil bell was enraged by the provocation of the devil fetus. With a whoosh, it transformed into a beam of devil light that shot into the devil fetus. The bell's mouth was like a black hole that devoured the devil sovereign. Clang, clang. It was as if the demonic bell was in too much of a hurry to eat and was burned by the hot food it swallowed. It shook violently and the bell rang incessantly. In an instant, it seemed to have been divided into 2 halves. One half became hell, while the other half became heaven. These were the great Daos of the Radiant Sovereign and the Darkness Devil Emperor. At this moment they appeared. The demonic bell wanted to use them to refine that lump of flesh. However, it was still not enough. The demonic bell was not enough to refine this lump of flesh. Under the suppression of the bell, this lump of flesh revealed its true form. Drops of blood appeared inside the bell, turning into supreme specters. 1. With the appearance of so many specters, the demonic bell suddenly expanded. In an instant it became the size of a mountain. Then, the bell's body directly distorted and deformed. It looked like a huge ball that was about to explode. Chu Yang's eyelids couldn't help but twitch. He used his Destiny Twin's martial soul. However, at this moment the imprint that he had imprinted on the demonic bell burst out. Light and darkness, yin and yang, water and fire, sun and moon burst out from the deformed demonic bell, forming a Taiji diagram. In the end, it rotated slowly like a star. Chapter 1948. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The high-frequency rotation caused the entire void to vibrate. However, many demonic shadows were unable to struggle out and were slowly refined. My imprint has the aura of the Destiny Twins' martial soul. Chu Yang felt that the demonic bell had gradually stabilized and was completely relieved. After the demonic bell swallowed the blood essence of many demonic gods, it needed to be refined slowly. When it was finished, there would be a qualitative change. Master, this holy fetus was originally a 5 elements holy fetus. It's much more amazing than ordinary holy fetus. The Ice Kuan's voice sounded. Chu Yang looked at the devil fetus and was stunned. At this moment, the blood essence of the demonic gods had been completely swallowed by the demonic bell. The devil fetus was no longer a devil fetus. It returned to its original appearance. It was crystal clear and emitted 5-colored light. There were 5 light balls rotating slowly in it, not only swallowing external energy to replenish itself. There was energy flowing between the 5 light balls, forming a 5-colored divine ring. It constantly emitted 5-colored divine light, as if it was constantly performing the divine light of 5 colors divine light. The 5 light balls are flowing with the energy of the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. This is the cycle of the 5 elements. As the Ice Kuan said, these were holy fetus related to the 5 element. However, this was not the most amazing thing. The 5 light balls were like 5 embryos. Didn't this mean that there were 5 holy fetus among them? A womb with 5 children. This was like a mother who was pregnant with 5 children in her womb. It was very rare. In other words, if Chu Yang refined the holy fetus, he would get 5 doppelgangers, and 5 saint doppelgangers. The surprise came too suddenly. Chu Yang was so shocked that he almost bit his tongue. He asked anxiously, "Kuan, are the 5 holy fetus at the saint level?" This was naturally what he was most concerned about. After all, if she was pregnant with 5 children at the same time, the burden of this mother would be too heavy. It was possible that the fetus in her womb would be malnourished. "Yes, master," the Ice Kuan said. "However, these 5 holy fetus are likely to die. Fortunately, they are nourished by the blood essence of many demonic gods. Otherwise, they would have died in the womb." "No way." It was like a bolt from the blue. Chu Yang's mind shook. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. At Master's level, perhaps no one but Master can refine these 5 sacred embryos. When the Ice Kuan's voice entered Chu Yang's ears again, he couldn't help but be overjoyed again. His mood was like a roller coaster. He couldn't help but scold the Ice Kuan. "I say, Kuan, can you say it all at once?" "Hee, isn't that what I learned from you, Master?" Bing Kuan smiled and said, "Only Master's lightning punishment is scary enough." Chu Yang was slightly stunned. It turned out that it wasn't because of his abilities, but because of his lightning punishment. After all, the holy embryo is a process of turning from a dead object into a living creature. Therefore, it must go through the thunder tribulation. Bing Kuan knew that Chu Yang was not clear about this, so he began to explain it to him. The sacred embryo was originally not a living creature, but because of the accumulation of spiritual energy, it developed intelligence over time. Later on, it slowly transformed into a living creature. Even the weakest among them, who couldn't withstand the lightning punishment, had to be nourished by the lightning. The thunder tribulation represented the approval of heaven and earth. The other was that even if heaven and earth didn't approve of them, they would definitely be destroyed by the thunder tribulation. Therefore, people generally believed that the sacred embryo had to go through the thunder tribulation in order to transform into a living creature. Master, your thunder tribulation is indeed scary, but the power of the lightning that descends may not be enough. Therefore, Master, you have to think carefully. The thunder tribulation was one of Chu Yang's main trump cards. Once he lost this trump card, he would be in trouble. Bing Kun knew very well, so he said that. Chapter 1949. Ice Kun naturally wasn't surprised by Chu Yang's choice. It wouldn't be too difficult for anyone to make this choice. As Chu Yang spoke, he injected his essence blood into the 5 saint fetuses, causing the 5 saint fetuses to take on the human form of 5 of them. Looking at the 5 human figures, he seemed to see himself in his mother's womb. He couldn't help but say to himself, I hope my luck is still as good this time, and there will be another change in the sky. Damn God, I ##yen % #yen. In order to face an even more shocking thunder tribulation, he directly activated the 3-character scripture. After cursing God, he took the saint fetuses and left the 7-demon realm. He was ready to break through to the transcendence realm and attract the thunder tribulation. Rumble. Chu Yang seemed to be able to summon and dismiss the thunder tribulations at will. The moment he released the suppression, the magic power in his body erupted like fire. However, before the magic power could condense into a Dharma form behind his back, thunder rumbled in the sky and a huge force of heaven's might descended. Thunder cloud gathered quickly, thick and huge. In the blink of an eye, the whole sky seemed to be covered by a piece of black cloth. The sky suddenly lowered and darkened. In the rumbling thunder, the heavy rain poured down. The whole world was instantly dark, and people couldn't see more than 10 meters away. Waha! Chu Yang was overjoyed. His thunder tribulation looked very scary. He sat down in the heavy rain and began to condense his transcendence realm. The transcendence realm was the most important step for warriors in the heavenly soul realm. The stronger the transcendence realm, the stronger the warrior would be. But the transcendence realm could not be condensed at will. Forging iron required one's own strength. The strength of the transcendence realm depended on the foundation of the warrior's own martial arts, whether the accumulation was strong or not, and other factors. It required a very clear understanding of oneself. In this way, the goal would not be too low, and the condensation of the transcendence realm would not fail. The goal would also not be too low, resulting in the transcendence realm being too weak. In general, the condensation process of the transcendence realm was a process of self-examination, self-recognition, and self-correction. It involved many factors. If the transcendence realm was condensed without knowing it, it would have a great impact on one's future martial arts. After all, the Dharma form was the crystallization of a martial artist's cultivation. It was the result of martial arts and was the only point of support for martial arts in the future. Chu Yang was naturally very interested in this and had also thought deeply about it. He didn't like the black tortoise, vermilion bird, azure dragon, white tiger, and the other Dharma idols. He also didn't think that the dark demon emperor, radiant ruler, and star sovereign were suitable. As for the Godhead and his destiny twins martial spirits, he also rejected them. In the end, his choice was simple and crude. If the saying that man was the measure of all things was absolutely true, then to Chu Yang, he was the measure of all things. I am the standard. If he did not exist, then everything would be meaningless to him. It was the condensation of his Dharma idol. He had chosen himself. He had chosen himself as his Dharma idol. Bing Kun had been guessing what kind of Dharma form his master would choose. However, after learning the final result, He was stunned for a while before regaining his senses. He was really shocked. Even if he was not from the heavenly soul world, he also knew the common sense. Generally speaking, the Dharma form would choose a powerful existence in the world that had proven itself. With himself as the Dharma form, how powerful could such a Dharma form be? It might be the weakest Dharma form in the heavenly soul world. To be exact, if there were no abnormal changes, Chu Yang's Dharma form would definitely be the weakest Dharma form. But who do you think you are? Bing Kun couldn't say such a sentence. This sentence might be suitable for everyone, but Chu Yang was definitely not in this category. He had already jumped out of the norm and was not bound by the laws of martial arts, so he was suitable to be different. Chu Yang was opening his own path, forming his own unique Tao. Therefore, Bing Kun was not qualified to guide Chu Yang at all. Chapter 1950. With himself as the avatar, Chu Yang didn't know what would happen. It was an attempt, a risk, but Huang Xiaolong was inclined to do so. He was being stubborn again, he wanted to be different from the rest, he wanted to do something unique. With me as the scale, with myself as the avatar, let me see if there will be any difference, and what will happen. Chu Yang let out a long roar. His arcane energy surged and condensed into a single point that rapidly transformed into the shape of a godhead. Inside the godhead, there were godheads within godheads, one after another, corresponding to his heavenly abodes. The cultivation base of the myriad god world was naturally his cultivation base. He used the godheads of the myriad god world as the starting point and starting point of his avatar. Rumble, rumble, rumble. As soon as the godheads appeared, the rumbling of thunder in the sky became more violent, visible sound waves blasted down from the sky, the thunderous rumbles shook the heaven and earth, as if the heaven and earth were on the verge of breaking apart. Good, 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 using the myriad god world's cultivation system as the starting point is really not tolerated by the heavenly spirit world. Maybe the lightning punishment will turn into a heavenly change, a terrifying lightning punishment will appear. Chu Yang could feel the rejection from the heaven and earth towards the godheads. He couldn't help but exclaim loudly, "Good!" This made him even more certain that with his avatar as the avatar he formed wouldn't be the weakest avatar in history, but the most unique and unique avatar in the history of the heavenly spirit world. Me, my avatar is formed. His heart was filled with lofty ambitions. His heart surged with heroic spirit as he roared. Amidst the rumbling of thunder, with the godheads formed from arcane energy as the center, the first change among the 100 godheads appeared. Only 2 of them remained, the rest of the godheads transformed into heavenly abodes. The transformation of the godheads into heavenly abodes was a regression, but it matched perfectly with Chu Yang's cultivation base. At this time, the arcane energy also condensed into a blurry humanoid figure. This humanoid figure was completely different from Chu Yang, it was the figure of a woman. Creation divine ability. Chu Yang let out a long roar again and used his creation magical power. In the blink of an eye, the blurry human figure rapidly materialized and turned into flesh and blood. Soon, Chu Yang's mother, Lui, appeared. Her abdomen was bulging. She was already 10 months pregnant. The fetus in her womb also appeared, bursting with light. Rumble. The thunder became even more intense. However, it was unable to cover up the cries of the newborn baby. Although the cries were weak, they were louder than the thunder. Chu Yang was simulating the process of his own birth, simulating the process of creation. He equated his own law to that of a human, and its condensation was also like the birth of a human. The cries soon turned into the babbling of a baby learning to speak, then into the laughter of a child, and finally into the laughter of a teenager. In the blink of an eye, a Dharma idol with flesh and blood, which was like a clone of Chu Yang, quickly took shape and landed behind Chu Yang. As soon as it appeared, there was a rumbling sound, as if there was an invisible axe in heaven and earth chopping down, as if the lightning punishment had already descended. Heaven and earth shook, and Chu Yang's Dharma idol suddenly became blurry at this moment, as if it was affected by the great Tao of heaven and earth. Ha, the lightning tribulation seems to be getting stranger and stranger. It seems that I have overstepped my bounds again. Chapter 1951. Damn God, I want to see how you can't tolerate me. Chu Yang was waiting for the lightning punishment, but it didn't fall. He didn't know what kind of lightning punishment it would be, so he was a little nervous. However, when he saw the saint embryo, all his nervousness and uneasiness disappeared. There was only a fire in his eyes. If he succeeded, he would have 5 saint clones. Rumble! Loud thunder rumbled, and the dazzling lightning illuminated the dark world. The downpour suddenly stopped, and there was finally a change in the firmament. Chu Yang looked up at the firmament and saw that the endless thunder and lightning had turned into a brush, writing a big red word, sin. Once the word sin was written, all the thunder and lightning disappeared and fell slowly like a heavy snow, faintly emitting a strong warning and persuasion. The sea of bitterness is boundless, turn back and be saved. Ha! Chu Yang had such a feeling and couldn't help but laugh out loud again. Sin, bullshit sin, who can convict me of sin? He was so rampant that Bing Kuan couldn't help but be stunned. His master was clearly provoking the majesty of heaven and earth, provoking the majesty of the great Tao. He was lawless. Maybe this is how it should be. Bing Kuan thought about it and felt relieved about all the things about Chu Yang. He thought to himself, besides Master himself, in this world, who and what is worthy of being his Dharma form? The word sin finally fell on top of Chu Yang's head. Suddenly Chu Yang's spirit blurred, as if he was drawn into an inexplicable time and space. In that time and space he was listed for all kinds of crimes. However, he didn't know what the specific crimes were. The reason seemed to be the language of heaven. The language of the great Tao was too profound, and he couldn't understand it. However, he could clearly feel the knife of heaven, in that time and space, as if to stop him from continuing to commit crimes. Countless imposing figures appeared, filled with righteous indignation, and wanted to kill him. Ha! Damn God, you say that I am guilty. Interesting. Chu Yang's spirit shook and broke free from that state. He roared, Saint Embryo, keep! Rumble! He used the saint fetus to devour the word sin. In an instant, the sin character exploded in the saint fetus and turned into rolling lightning. Endless lightning energy was released, and it was extremely dazzling. It couldn't be seen with the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, the endless power of thunder and lightning was completely absorbed by the 5 balls of light. The thunder and lightning instantly dimmed. Then, the 5 balls of light disappeared and were replaced by 5 Chu Yang. Thunder and lightning were sizzling above their 9 orifices. This was the power of thunder nourishing the 5 saint fetuses. Not bad. Chu Yang was extremely satisfied. Up until now, everything was going according to his plan without any deviation. Seeing that he was about to succeed, he couldn't help but become even more excited. He raised his head to the sky and shouted, Damned heavens, let the lightning tribulation come more violently. Bing Kuan also laughed at this moment. Not many people could be like his master, who could casually make fun of the thunder tribulation. In the face of the thunder tribulation, most warriors were worried and terrified. Rumble! The thunder tribulation fell again. This time it was still one word, kill. It was different from the word sin from before. This word, kill, quickly fell down as soon as it was formed. It was as if a county magistrate had slammed a gavel down to announce a verdict of execution. It was as if he was about to drag Chu Yang out and behead him. You really treat me as a prisoner. He laughed and then mocked himself. He didn't take it seriously. This time, before the kill character fell, He controlled the Saint Fetus to meet it and directly devour the kill character and the thunder tribulation. The endless power of thunder burst out again. At this time, the 5 Chu-yang suddenly opened their eyes. Their dazzling eyes were even brighter than the lightning. Chapter 1952. They began to breathe, to listen to the sounds of heaven and earth, to speak with their mouths, to touch heaven and earth. Every movement was the first, and every movement was accompanied by an endless amount of life energy. Endless mysteries flowed, and the void trembled endlessly. Each and every one of these 5 seemed to be creating new worlds, as if they were creating things. They were not about to be born and appear in the world. Good, good, good. Chu-yang was overjoyed when he felt the astonishing change in energy. When the rumbling thunder came down again, he was overjoyed, but then he was shocked. The thunder didn't strike him this time, but the 5 Saint Fetuses. Then, a sudden change occurred. Under the bombardment of thunder, the 5 Saint Fetuses all flew out. Then, as if obeying some kind of command, they all flew into Chu-yang's Dharma idol and merged completely with it. ZZZT. Chu-yang's Dharma idol was immediately enveloped by the power of thunder, and the sizzling sound of thunder resounded endlessly. Roar! The roar of a dragon suddenly came from the Dharma idol. Then, a thunder dragon drilled in and out of each of the 9 orifices of Chu-yang's Dharma idol. When it exited, it devoured the essence of the heavens, and when it entered, it drilled in and out of the Dharma idol. The 9 dragons were like 9 hard-working bees. They seemed to be collecting pollen, but also building a beehive. The Dharma idol was a primordial chaos, and inside it was a world of its own where life was slowly being formed. Then, the flesh, tendons, bones, and organs of the Dharma idol appeared and formed one by one. Those were real flesh, tendons, and bones. Thump, thump, thump. The heartbeat was like a heavenly drum, and the drumbeat was like thunder. Along with the beating of the heart, the blood in Fa Xiang's body surged like a raging river. Billows of life energy swept out and flooded the surroundings. In the void, patches of green grass, flowers, and vegetation appeared one by one. There were even flowers, birds, fish, and insects. What's going on? Chu-yang felt that something was wrong, and his smile froze on his face. The Dharma idol seemed to have completely merged with the 5 Saint Fetuses. The Dharma idol was the Saint Fetuses, and the Saint Fetuses were the Dharma idol. It was unbelievable. Such a thing had never happened in the heavenly spirit world before. The rolling thunder also disappeared. When Chu-yang raised his head to look at the sky, he was shocked to see that the thunder cloud was rapidly disappearing. The lightning punishment is over? It was as if God had stuffed a huge question mark into Chu-yang's mind, causing him to have 100,000 whys in an instant. Why is the lightning punishment over? In total, the lightning punishment has only struck 3 times, right? What does this mean? What will happen next? Chu-yang's mind was filled with bewilderment, and he was about to go crazy. The Ice Koan was completely dumbfounded. Not to mention Chu-yang, even he couldn't understand what was going on. What the hell? What the hell? Chu-yang had just started cursing when he suddenly froze. 2 voices rang out at the same time. But these 2 voices were identical. In fact, they were exactly the same. Both voices knew his own voice, and there was no doubt about it. When he realized the reason, he was completely petrified. The Dharma idol, it was his Dharma idol. His Dharma idol had just made the same voice as him. What the hell is going on? The Dharma idol was no longer the condensation of spiritual power, nor was it the embodiment of martial arts. It had become a person, a living person, another living person, equivalent to Chu-yang's doppelganger. The Saint Fetuses have turned into my Dharma idol, and that's why the Dharma idol turned into a living being. Chapter 1953. Chu Yang's Dharma form had everything he had. The Destiny Twins martial spirit, the Saber and Sword martial spirit, the Dragon martial spirit, the 21 spirits, the God's spirit, the Devil's spirit, the 100 Grotto heavens, the cultivation of the heavenly spirit world, the cultivation of the God's world, and his Tai Chi and Wuji Dao. His Dao and everything about him were all in the Dharma form. It could be said that the Dharma form was the same as his deity, the same living creature and the same person. Kun, can you help me? Can you answer my questions? How could the Ice Kun know? The Dharma form turning into a living creature was unimaginable and unprecedented. Am I considered to have failed? Chu Yang didn't even understand this question, but it should be a failure. His Dharma form was exactly the same as his, and its cultivation was only in the transcendence realm, which was a far cry from the sage in his imagination. It shouldn't be a failure. It's just another change. The Ice Kun finally spoke. Master, you used the divine fetus to withstand the thunder tribulation of the transcendence realm, and you used yourself as the Dharma form. The combination of the two evolved this scene. Chu Yang was stunned for a moment before he said, Kunkin, you mean that the damned heavens saw that the thunder punishment couldn't do anything to me, and didn't want me to have 5 saints clones at once. So, they simply stopped me from succeeding and closed the shop? It seems to be the case. The Ice Kun smiled bitterly. How could there be so many thoughts in the operation of the Great Way? The operation of the Great Way was like a seed sprouting, growing tender leaves, and growing into a small sapling. You mean, I shouldn't have used the 3-character classic to fight against God from the very beginning? Chu Yang was very disheartened. His sage avatars were gone, and he wanted to cry but had no tears. Master, don't you think that this Dharma form is actually more amazing than the 5 sage avatars? Bullshit. Chu Yang would never agree. Even if the Dharma form became an avatar, or even another deity, it couldn't be compared with a sage, especially 5 sage avatars. As long as he thought of this, his heart was bleeding. Master, your Dharma idol should be able to display your various abilities. The Ice Kun spoke. Chu Yang replied weakly, Kun, are you trying to say that something is better than nothing? He quickly confirmed that the avatar was just like him, able to split into the heavenly spirit world, the God's world, and the celestial and demon world. In addition, the Dharma idol was the same as his 4 doppelgangers. As long as he did not die, the Dharma idol would also be immortal. Soon, he understood the reason. Dharma idol E was formed by the condensation of Fali. At this point, as long as Fali still had Fali, he could recover. Secondly, the Dharma form contained the sacred embryo of the 5 elements. Chu Yang himself was the source of the coexistence of the 5 elements. Because of the coexistence of the 5 elements, even if the sacred embryo was destroyed, it could be recovered. Master, I feel that this Dharma form of yours is even more shocking than the 5 saint avatars. Bing Kun repeated his point of view, but Chu Yang still did not agree with him at all. Kun, this is not how you comfort people. Master, this is not your style. Bing Kun changed the topic. He naturally had his reasons for saying this. The reason why he didn't continue was that he knew that Chu Yang would definitely not agree with him. Kun, please allow me to be sad for a while. His great expectations were dashed, and Chu Yang was in a bad mood. Without the sage avatars, it seems that I have to continue to pretend to be weak. Sigh. After a while, he began to think about what to do next. In an instant, he realized that this was not the worst. Because he had the possibility of refining the devil embryo, when the enemy estimated him, they should take the sage avatars into account. Chapter 1954. Damn it! Chu Yang was really depressed. When he saw that the demonic bell had returned to its original state, he finally felt a little comforted. He thought to himself, when the demonic bell completely digests the demon god's essence and blood, I may be able to control it. At that time, my enemy's prediction will still be wrong. What would it look like when the Ice Kuan used the demonic bell? This would be his most important support in the future. After some tidying up, Chu Yang planned to return to the Zhongtian mountain range and continue to participate in the 6 Academies Grand Competition. There would be all kinds of difficulties and pressures. No matter how lazy he would be pushed forward by the general trend. The 6 Academies Grand Competition was the pulse of the East Continent. With a swoosh, Chu Yang left the 7-wheel demon realm under the lead of the Ice Kuan and appeared in front of Chu Fei and the others. We're in a hurry. Brother Fei, tell me your plan. As soon as he appeared, Chu Yang spoke directly. According to the time calculation, the first stage of the Zhongtian mountain range screening should be over soon. He had to go back to get some points to enter the second round of the competition. I'll go back to the barren village first and sort myself out. I'll make a decision after thinking it through. Chu Fei felt that he would be a burden if he followed Chu Yang. I'll also go back to the barren village first, the saint child also said. He also had his own ideas. The silver wolf pondered for a long time and finally made a decision. For now, without strength, anything you say is bullshit. I'll go back to the barren village first and wait until I condense the Dharma form. It was definitely not easy to condense the Dharma form of a Star Lord. Dharma form. When Chu Yang heard the word Dharma form, many ideas gushed out like a fountain, unstoppable. When an idea burst out, he said directly without thinking, "You can try to condense the Dharma form of a Star Lord with your essence and blood." After saying that, he realized that his suggestion was not very careful. The reason why he had so many ideas was probably because when he was condensing his own Dharma power, he had a very deep understanding. As for the suggestion of using the blood essence of the Silver Wolf as the base point and then condensing the Celestial Lord Dharma idol, this was somewhat similar to Chu Yang using the Divine Spark as the base point. The Silver Wolf was the descendant of the Celestial Lord, and the blood of the Celestial Lord flowed in its body. This should be something worth thinking about, Chu Yang quickly added. In the end, he was not sure. Anyway, when he was condensing his Dharma power, something big happened. All 5 saint embryos were gone. Blood essence as the starting point? The Silver Wolf was stunned and fell into deep thought. Brother Xiao Fei, second brother, since you've decided to return to the village first, then I'll leave first. Then, he looked at the Silver Wolf. This dumb wolf, keep an eye on him. Little brother, don't worry. Chu Yang nodded and said to Little Guai, Little Guai, let's go and have some fun. Yeah. Lil Guai was excited. It really missed the days when it was with Chu Yang. It kept chirping, saying that it wanted to see its sister-in-law. Ha! Chu Yang laughed. He felt that Shangguan Lan would be very happy to see Lil Guai. Big brother, second brother, be careful on your way. After saying that, Chu Yang and Lil Guai immediately left and disappeared. Chu Fei and the Saint Child looked in the direction that Chu Yang left, and their eyes were a little dazed. Then, they said in unison, I wonder what little brother will do this time. Chapter 1955. Thanks to the Ice Kuan, Chu Yang returned to the Zhongtian mountain range very quickly. When he returned, he found that the students of the 6 great academies were no longer paying attention to the murder of the Slayer and the theft of the sacred embryo, let alone discussing it in private. Chu Yang didn't believe in heresy. He changed his appearance and blended into the crowd. However, he still didn't hear anything about the previous event. The students were all discussing who was more shocking, who was more powerful, and who was more dazzling in the first stage. It could be said that there was no trace of such major events as the murder of the saint and the theft of the sacred embryo, as if they had never happened at all. Amazing! What a good method! Chu Yang was shocked. He hadn't left for a long time. In fact, it had only been 2 days. However, everything had calmed down in these 2 days. He couldn't help but marvel at the other party's methods. The enemy in the dark is really amazing. He still didn't know who the enemy in the dark was, but in his opinion it should be soon. After that, he temporarily ignored everything and looked for Hao Haodong, Olajing, and Cui Xinho in the Zhongtian mountain range. To be honest, he was a little worried about the three. Although the 6 great academies combined tournament had some bullshit inspection team, it was useless against the people of the Eastern Wilderness. It was even the butcher's knife for the people of the Eastern Wilderness, so Hao Haodong and the other 2 were very likely to be killed. Chu Yang searched around but couldn't find any trace of the 3, nor could he hear any news about them. In the end, seeing that the first round of the screening was about to end, he could only go and grab the points first. To enter the second round of the combined tournament, the points were the only criteria. As for the points, it wasn't difficult for Chu Yang, and he didn't rob recklessly. His original body and Dharma idol each transformed into 4 major doppelgangers, and the other 8 doppelgangers all looked like Cui Xinho and the other 2, wandering in the Zhongtian mountain range. The results made him even more worried about Cui Xinho and the other 2. After the 8 doppelgangers changed into their appearances, once they were found out that they were from the Eastern Wilderness, they would be easily ridiculed, and targeted. Many people even wanted to kill the 3 of them, and they were quite arrogant and presumptuous. Of course, Chu Yang would gladly accept their points. However, for those who mocked and ridiculed him, Chu Yang would directly hit them and rob them of all their points. As for those who despised and targeted the Eastern Wasteland, he would directly strip them naked and hang them up to dry. As for those who wanted to kill Cui Xinho and the other 3, Chu Yang directly killed them. Because of Chu Yang's various actions, the combined tournament of the 6 academies, which had just returned to normal, once again deviated from its track, and once again caused the entire 6 great mountain ranges to be in turmoil. Almost everyone knew that Chu Yang did it, and it announced that Chu Hang, who had been silent for a long time, had begun to take action. Those who despised the Eastern Wilderness had to restrain themselves a lot, and they didn't dare to say anything. Many students of the 6 academies were killed, which made the students of the 6 academies more anxious than the death of the holy disciples, because each of them could become the next 4 people, and in the end, it almost caused the inspection team of the 6 academies to collapse. According to the results of the investigation, the inspection team could guess who did it, but they didn't have any evidence and couldn't do anything. Previously, they didn't do anything and allowed the students of the 6 academies to wantonly bully the people of the Eastern Wilderness. This time, they directly exploded, and in the end, there was no way to clean up the mess, leading to such a situation. The inspection team didn't even dare to release the news that all this was done by Chu Yang, because if that bastard knew, he might target them and kill them too. Chapter 1956. The matter did not end there. There were still students from the 6 great academies being killed. However, as time went on, the other party became more presumptuous, killing people and leaving messages. "I'm not targeting anyone. The 6 great academies are all scumbags. It's not that the inspection team doesn't work hard, but the enemy is too cunning. Inspection team, come and catch me. Otherwise, I'll feel no pressure." Many messages left behind made the inspection team lose face, but the flustered hearts of the students from the 6 great academies calmed down again because they already knew who was causing trouble and why. After all, many people had died and they could finally find out something. Those who were killed seemed to have one thing in common, which was that they were not friendly to people from the Eastern Wilderness. In addition, Chu Hang appeared again, so everything seemed to have an answer. When everything was clear and there was an answer, they naturally would not be nervous anymore. As long as they did not cause trouble, nothing would happen. Then there was nothing to worry about. Of course, there were also people who were not afraid of Chu Yang and clamored, but in the end they were all killed without exception. However, there were more and more clamoring voices, which made Chu Yang realize that there was a long way to go before the East Continent recognized the people from the Eastern Wilderness. As time passed and many things happened, the first stage of the selection of the 6 Great Academies Alliance competition finally ended. In the first stage, many students from the 6 Great Academies were killed. The number of people who Chu Yang killed with killing intent in the Eastern Wilderness was negligible. Many students died in the fierce competition and fighting. Therefore, the credit naturally went to the rules of the competition, to the inspection team, and to the 6 Great Academies. In the end, there were many people who could enter the second stage of the competition, but at least 3/4 of the students were not selected. Only 1/4 of the students entered the second stage of the competition. The second stage of the 6 Academies Alliance competition was the Arena Martial Arts competition, and the final winner would be decided. This was also the highlight of the 6 Academies Alliance competition. At the place where the students of the 6 Great Academies gathered, there was a hubbub of voices. The noise rose like waves of hot air, and then turned into water vapor to clean the sky. "Isn't that the 3-day wild dog from the Sky Academy?" Suddenly, a voice rang out, suppressing all the clamor. Everyone turned their gazes over and saw Cui Xinho's group of 3 flying over, getting closer and closer. In an instant, the 3 of them became the focus of everyone's attention. They actually dared to appear? How dare you! With Chu Hang holding the fort, there's nothing they wouldn't dare to do. More voices came out from the crowd. Chu Yang was in the crowd and saw that the 3 of them were somewhat weak, as if they had just recovered from a long illness. He couldn't help but narrow his eyes. They had just recovered from serious injuries. Who did it? As soon as Chu Yang's voice came out, everyone couldn't help but look over. Chu Hang. It was actually Chu Hang. Boom. The crowd was in an uproar, and then the people around Chu Yang quickly retreated like the ebbing tide. No one knew when Chu Yang had appeared in the crowd without anyone noticing. When Chu Yang opened his mouth to speak, he had soundlessly restored his original appearance. That was why it was so abrupt just now. Seeing Chu Yang, Cui Xinho's group of 3 were shocked, and then resentment, shame, and all kinds of emotions appeared. In the end, they blushed and said with thick necks, "Those things in the Eastern Wilderness are not good enough. We'll find our own place." Okay. Chu Yang saw the shame of the 3, so he only said this word. Chapter 1957. The hoarse voice rang out and the people there stepped aside. Immediately, a young man in the undead spirit realm with 6 fingers on each hand and a cultivation base of about 25 or 26 years old, wearing the uniform of the Myriad Academy, entered everyone's eyes. Many people were shocked and thought to themselves, "It's one thing to bully those 3 people from the Eastern Wilderness, but he actually dares to be so arrogant in front of Chu Hang." Li Qianli. Olajin gritted his teeth and said word by word, as if he was gnawing on the flesh of the person called Li Qianli. "What, wild dog, do you hate me very much?" Li Qianli said with a smile, "You want me to force you to eat dog shit again, don't you? Ha ha." He suddenly laughed. "A dog can't change its habit of eating shit. I'm helping you. Wild dog, why do you hate me so much?" Li Qianli actually forced that person to eat dog shit? Many people, especially the students of the Sky Academy, felt their heartstrings tremble at this moment. They almost couldn't breathe, as if they had encountered some kind of great horror. It's over, it's over. Li Qianli will definitely suffer. If he dares to force the people from the Eastern Wilderness to eat dog shit, Chu Hang will definitely let him. This Li Qianli has eaten all the dog shit in the world. The atmosphere became incomparably tense in the blink of an eye. Then, many people started to watch this scene in a mocking manner. They wanted to see how Chu Yang would deal with this. They wanted to see whether he would be able to regain his face and reputation. Was he as amazing as the rumors said? Chu Yang had a great reputation, but there were still many people who questioned him. There was never a lack of arrogant people in this world. Olajing trembled with anger, and his face turned red with shame and anger. Oh, what are you angry about? It's shameful to eat dog shit, but not everyone can have such a temperament, and few people can bear such shame. I'm proud of you. Who else could it be other than Chu Yang who had spoken? At this moment, when he looked at Olajing, there was no smile on his face, nor was there his usual sloppy attitude. Instead, there was an expression of pride. Chu Yang was naturally very angry. Not to mention brothers, friends, underlings, or anything else, at least Olu was his admirer. Just this reason alone was enough. He didn't need anything else. Of course, what he said wasn't empty words. It was sincere, and he agreed with it greatly. Life was precious, and humiliation was hard to bear. It was not shameful to bear such humiliation in order to protect one's own life. Go Jian had endured hardships, and his story had been passed down through the ages. This was the best example. The eastern wilderness. Olajing was stunned. Then, his body trembled violently. There was no disappointment, humiliation, or embarrassment that he had imagined. There was only affirmation and recognition. He had never expected this, so he felt even more ashamed at this moment. If you feel incomparably humiliated, if you feel incomparably ashamed, then this will become your supreme driving force in the future. I'm sure that in the future, you will be proud in the East Continent, and no one will dare to look down on you. Chu Yang's voice was powerful and resonant. Every word was incomparably clear. Every word was encouragement, every word was expectation, and every word was incomparably affirmative. I will. Chu Yang finally laughed. Louder, tell everyone in the East Continent your goal, your ambition. Olajing heard this, clenched his fists and roared. I, Olajing, must wash away my shame, stand proudly in the East Continent, and become the most supreme existence in the East Continent. Chu Yang laughed even more happily. He believed that Olajing could do it. If you asked him what basis he had, how could he be so sure? He had no basis, but it was not empty. Nothing in the world was difficult for a determined person. Ha ha! Chapter 1958. Li Qianli laughed so hard that tears were about to flow out of his eyes. He looked as if he had seen the funniest thing in the world. Is it very funny? Chu Yang also laughed. Many people in the Sky Academy were so familiar with his laughter that they all shuddered. Chu Hang is angry. Li Qianli will die soon. The cultivation of the dead spirit realm was very intimidating, but for Chu Hang, the dead spirit realm was just a fart. Although Chu Hang's current realm had not reached the level of a fart, it would be a piece of cake for him to kill a martial artist in the dead spirit realm, and he had thousands of means to do so. However, no one knew which one Chu Hang would choose. Humph! Of course, Li Qianli heard Chu Yang's sarcasm. He stopped laughing and couldn't help but mock. Wild dog, you have a little reputation. Do you think you are so great? You are still just a wild dog. Many people in the Sky Academy couldn't help but cover their eyes. They couldn't bear to see Li Qianli courting death. What? Am I wrong? Li Qianli pointed at Chu Yang directly and sneered. I heard that you killed 3 martial artists in the dead spirit realm, and even 3 in the life realm. If you have the guts, why don't you try to kill me? The news that Chu Yang had killed 3 martial artists in the life realm and 3 in the dead spirit realm had been spreading before. Because it was related to the death of Saint, almost everyone knew about it. However, not many people believed it when it was confirmed that the one who killed Saint was not Chu Yang. Li Qianli obviously wouldn't believe it. He would never believe it. Chu Yang laughed even more happily. It's not true. Thank you for your statement. This was indeed the truth. The 3 martial artists in the life realm were killed by Shangguan. Since you know that you are no match for a martial artist in the dead spirit realm, how dare you be so arrogant in front of me? Li Qianli noticed that Chu Yang's sarcasm was getting worse, and he couldn't help but get angry. It seems that I have to let this wild dog eat dog shit. You actually believed Chu Hang's words. Many students of the Sky Academy were really shocked by Li Qianli. Some of them even wondered if this guy was a fool. This is a very good suggestion. Chu Yang looked at Li Qianli as if he was looking at a clown. He wasn't angered, and instead, his smile became even more radiant. Therefore, I suggest you go look for dog shit. The more the better. Very good. Li Qianli roared. He was completely enraged by Chu Yang's contempt. I've already prepared a lot of dog shit. I guarantee that you won't be able to finish it. Bring me the dog shit. As soon as he finished speaking, someone walked out from behind Li Qianli and used his magic to move the dog feces out of the spatial ring. In an instant, a pile of dog poop the size of a small hill appeared in front of everyone, causing everyone's eyes to widen. So much dog shit, I've worked so hard to find it. How can I find so much dog shit if I don't spend a lot of time looking for it? In addition, Li Qianli didn't hesitate to use the spatial ring to store the dirty dog shit. He hated Chu Yang very much. Oh, he's definitely a moron, a super moron. There's no need to guess. The next program must be eating dog shit. That moron is so well prepared. How can he escape? I haven't seen it before. I really haven't. I really haven't seen anyone courting death like this. No, I haven't seen anyone looking for dog shit like this. At this time, many people of the Sky Academy were completely convinced by Li Qianli. They were convinced by his wisdom and his ample preparation. You can start eating now. Chu Yang looked at the mountain-sized pile of dog shit and couldn't help but sneer. You want me to eat dog shit? Li Qianli pointed at himself with a very playful expression. Then he laughed loudly. Haha, wild dog, I heard that you're very arrogant. This rumor is not wrong at all. Chapter 1959. Everyone in the Sky Academy knew what such a smile meant. They thought to themselves, it's starting. Chu Hang is starting. Wild dog, it seems more appropriate for me to say this. Li Qianli took out a knife, licked the wound on the blade with his tongue, and smiled strangely. Oh, I need to prove myself, right? Chu Yang said to the people present, everyone, can you prove it for me? No one said anything. Chu Yang continued, if no one objects then you all agree. Please start to prove it for me. What's going on? Many people were dumbfounded. Why did the fire suddenly burn them? They were just watching the show from the side, but they didn't make a single sound. This wasn't appropriate. Wild dog, do you think it's not enough for me to deal with you alone? Do you want to anger everyone? Li Qianli's strange smile turned into a sneer in an instant. Chu Yang's contempt for him made him furious to the extreme. Li Qianli was directly ignored. Everyone, do you have any objection to proving it for me? Chu Yang said to the crowd, do you want me to invite someone to prove it for you? There was still no sound from the crowd. Chu Yang didn't wait and said directly, in this case, I can only invite Little Cutie. Little Cutie? Hearing these words, someone immediately shouted, Chu Hang, I'm allergic to cuteness recently. I really can't stand Little Cutie. Chu Hang, can't we prove it? Do you want us to cry in front of you? Yes, we will prove it. We will prove it. There's no need to disturb Little Cutie at all. Everyone in the Sky Academy knew Little Cutie too well. As soon as Little Cutie came, they would probably all die. Because Little Cutie was so cute that she wanted you to die directly. Once the Thunder Tribulation was triggered, according to the level of Chu Hang's Thunder Punishment, no one could survive. Little Cutie, isn't it just a Thunder Tribulation? Who are you trying to scare? By the time you've fully triggered the lightning tribulation, we'll be long gone, you idiot. Do you dare to trigger the lightning tribulation? If you trigger the lightning tribulation, even if all of us die, you will die too. I thought you were capable of something. Originally, a few arrogant people began to clamor, but they were soon rudely interrupted and drowned out. You idiot, shut your mouth right now. Don't you know that Chu Hang has already flipped out? The students of the Sky Academy were so agitated that they cursed loudly. Encountering one retard was already bad enough, but encountering a whole bunch of retards? He was really going to be angered to death, scared to death. There are 2 shortages every year, but there are a lot of them this year. If you don't know, you can die on your own. Don't come out and harm others. Do you know why the lightning tribulation is called Little Cutie? Chu Hang's lightning tribulation comes as he pleases. Why is Chu Hang called Chu Hang? Read more books and be more careful. Chu Hang dug a hole, but you still fell into it. Idiot, are you blind? Chu Hang even dared to argue with the inspection team. How dare you doubt his courage? Was your mother very sad when she gave birth to you? All of a sudden, many people jumped out excitedly and cursed loudly, and more people behind them cursed loudly. Lightning tribulation. Buzz. Li Qianli's mind was buzzing. When he thought of this, his mind went blank. Chapter 1960. Boom. Immediately, there was a deafening roar. Almost everyone in the Sky Academy was afraid that their expressions were not profound and vivid enough, and Chu Hang would catch them. Senior brother from the Sky Academy, is it so serious? A student of the Heavenly Sword Academy expressed his doubts. What do you think? The man from the Sky Academy immediately roared. Get away from me quickly. Don't tell me that Chu Hang is not a cheat, not powerful, and that Chu Hang will definitely die and so on. I was so frightened that I could see through these illusions. The Heavenly Sword Academy was almost dumbfounded. He thought, there are so many illusions about Chu Hang. He looks very powerful and terrible. Senior brothers and junior brothers of the 5 academies, let me remind you that Chu Hang has gone mad. Chu Hang has already gone mad. Don't be fooled by his smiling face. It's an illusion, absolutely an illusion. Chu Hang has gone mad, and the consequences are very serious. Chu Hang has gone mad beyond your imagination. The Sky Academy repeatedly emphasized Chu Hang's ferocity and cruelty, but in the end, some people still did not believe it. Even if Chu Hang triggers the thunder punishment and we all die, he won't recover. Yes, he should be a little afraid. I don't believe he has the guts. Being questioned, the people from the Sky Academy couldn't help it. Did Li Qianli lend his brain to you? The point is that we die first, understand? Are you born and raised by your parents? Didn't they tell you what an illusion is? Chu Hang is very timid. This is an illusion. Before doubting Chu Hang's guts, why don't you doubt your amazing IQ and Li Qianli's brain first? If he kills us, Chu Hang will definitely die. This is definitely an illusion. Even if all of us are killed, our 6 great academies will almost collapse, but I can tell you clearly that Chu Hang will definitely not die. When Chu Yang heard the roars of the crowd, his eyes suddenly lit up. He said, "This sounds like a good idea. Why don't we invite Little Cutie?" Don't. Chu Hang, let's talk this out. No. Chu Yang shook his head and said, "It was you who reminded me that killing a few kittens and puppies cannot fundamentally change the situation in the eastern wilderness. We need to kill a lot of people." He was truly tempted. If he triggered the lightning tribulation and killed almost everyone in this level of the 6 great academies, then the 6 great academies might collapse. Even if it did not collapse, the strength of the 6 great academies would definitely be weakened to the extreme. Although there were many people in the middle and lower levels of the 6 great academies, they were too weak. Although the holy disciples in the upper levels were very strong, there were too few of them. Many people saw Chu Yang rubbing his chin and pondering. His eyes were shining, and he looked like he was tempted. They were so scared that cold sweat broke out. Suddenly, someone jumped out and shouted, "This is also Chu Hang's illusion. Chu Hang is going to attack, Chu Hang is going too far, and so on are all illusions. Don't provoke, don't attack, and don't run. Don't let Chu Hang get hold of your weakness. Stay calm." Yes, yes, yes. This is Chu Hang's illusion. Chu Hang's routine. He usually gives you an illusion and makes you jump. If you let him attack, he can use this opportunity to attack. After killing us, he will pretend to be obedient and say that he had no choice. Stay calm, stay calm. Chapter 1961. Calm down. Li Qianli thought it was funny, and there were many people who found it funny. Amidst the hubbub, many people quietly watched this scene. They watched as Chu Yang became the center of attention, as Chu Yang became the center of attention, as well as the dazzling light on Chu Yang's body. Their eyes were filled with coldness. Everyone wanted to be famous and stand out. For the students of the 6 academies, the 6 Academies Alliance tournament was the best place to become famous and stand out. Once they stood out in the 6 Academies Alliance tournament, everyone in the 6 academies would know their names, and so would the East Continent. It was just that the joint martial competition of the 6 academies had not started yet. Before they could show their abilities and stand out, Chu Yang, this wild dog, had already become dazzling and snatched away all of their limelight. Humph, it's not certain who will have the last laugh. As long as I can trample on Chu Yang, I will definitely become famous in the East Continent. Everyone will know who I am. This is a shortcut, a step straight to the clouds. As long as I defeat this wild dog, the rest of the matches are not important. The divine doppelganger fruit is also not important. Defeating him is the most important. For a moment, looking at Chu Yang, who was the center of attention, the students of the 6 academies had different thoughts. They knew that Chu Yang was amazing, but it was because of this that they could trample on him and help them become famous. Once they succeeded, they would be even more dazzling and eye-catching than Chu Yang at this moment. This extremely tempting result caused many of them to feel no fear at all. Instead, their fighting spirit rose and they were very excited, feeling that a great opportunity was in front of them. Li Qianli's matter was quickly resolved. He could see Chu Yang's majesty from the Sky Resentment Institute's comical behavior, and the students of the other 5 academies could naturally see it as well. Therefore, one could imagine the pressure they put on Li Qianli. In the end, Li Qianli's choice was also obvious. As for his psychological process, Chu Yang was not interested. Chu Yang was even less interested in him eating dog shit. This was definitely not a beautiful thing. Humiliating people was never beautiful, but in life, it was inevitable that people would do things that were not beautiful. Perhaps it could be said that there was no such thing as beautiful or not beautiful in this world. The reason why something was beautiful or not was because it was artificial. However, no matter what, Chu Yang had no interest in Li Qianli eating dog shit. He was just doing what he had to do. Someone wants to see you in the eastern wilderness. He claims to be Nangong Xing's most loyal servant, Han Zhong. After the matter with Li Qianli was over, Cui Xinho and the other 2 secretly sent a voice transmission to Chu Yang. Their first question was the most interesting to Chu Yang, but when the answer to the second question was revealed, his interest plummeted. It must be related to Nangong Xing. He had heard the name Nangong Xing many times, but he had never seen such a person, let alone know what this Nangong Xing looked like. However, Nangong Xing did not seem to be a smart person. What's his motive? To be honest, Chu Yang was not very interested. Nangong Xing's servant had come to find him either to tell him some news or to seek revenge through him. The so-called news was even more unpredictable. Perhaps Nangong Xing's servant had come because his enemy had sent him. There were too many possibilities. But Chu Yang was a little lazy at the moment. He was too lazy to use his brain to think about these problems. We're not very sure. We're guessing that he should have some important information. How did he find you? Chu Yang was very concerned about this. Chapter 1962. Such a method of contact. Such a method was very likely arranged by the enemy in advance to gain the trust of Olajing and the other two. After all, they were saved by others, so they would definitely feel grateful. What's the point of thinking so much? I'll get the gist of it once I meet him. Chu Yang mocked himself in his heart for a while, then said, "Where is he now?" After Olajing told them the location, Chu Yang left under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Naturally, no one dared to stop him, and no one dared to criticize him. Of course, no one dared to follow Chu Yang, because they couldn't catch up with him even if they did. Flowing water, waterfall. A large river surged in the mountains, and the sound of water rumbled. When it reached the cliff, the water poured down and formed a waterfall, which was very spectacular. The sound of water at the waterfall was even louder, and water droplets splashed everywhere, and water vapor filled the air. The white water curtain that formed seemed to be someone's white hair. When Chu Yang arrived, he saw a person at the waterfall. This person's clothes and shoes were the most eye-catching. They were the first to enter his eyes. They were definitely not the most gorgeous clothes. They were very ordinary clothes, but they were definitely the most fitting clothes. The shoes were also very ordinary, but as long as he looked at them, he knew that there was absolutely no other pair of shoes in the world that fit his feet better than this pair of shoes. This person's appearance was not bad, and his temperament was not bad either. He could be considered a servant, but he could also be considered a young master. As long as he was willing, he could easily do both. Once he did, he would definitely do well. For example, at first glance, Chu Yang thought that he was a servant. Such ability was very impressive. Chu Yang saw this person, and this person naturally saw Chu Yang. Chu Yang went straight to the point. Chu Yang. Han Zhong. This person also revealed his identity. You are the one who killed my master. Han Zhong's second sentence was like this. His expression was full of anger, but he seemed to blame himself even more, as if he blamed himself for not protecting his master. Chu Yang smiled. This loyal servant actually pushed the blame to him. He asked, "Do I know Nangong Xing?" "Of course not." "Do I have a grudge against Nangong Xing?" "Of course not." "All of this is your deduction." Chu Yang shook his head. As for Nangong Xing's death, he did not feel guilty at all. If Nangong Xing had not caught his elder brother, the situation would have been completely different. "So, I can't say that you were wrong to want to save your brother, so my master was seeking death, right?" Han Zhong gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. Chu Yang looked at Han Zhong and suddenly blurted out, "You are Nangong Xing, and the dead Nangong Xing is your most loyal servant, right? How did you know?" Han Zhong was stunned. "I guessed." Chu Yang instantly understood all of Han Zhong's actions. "Guess? There has to be a reason to guess, right?" Nangong Xing naturally didn't need to pretend to be Han Zhong anymore. He wanted to use his original identity to talk to Chu Yang and cause some trouble. "You don't have to answer this question," Chu Yang said. "If you are a servant and your master is dead, your eyes should be filled with anger or hatred, and not guilt and self-blame. Am I right? If you failed to protect your master, shouldn't you feel guilty and self-blame?" "So, I said I guessed." It seems that being a servant, especially being a loyal servant, is definitely not an easy thing. Nangong Xing's eyes suddenly revealed great sadness. "If I could do it, I wouldn't have left too many traces, so that you would have such a guess." Chapter 1963. When I was young, although I was a young master, I was not a young master who was valued by others. I was a useless young master. Nangong Xing started to talk about irrelevant things. Chu Yang could only listen and listen. I think you can roughly imagine the situation of a useless young master. Chu Yang could naturally imagine. A useless person's situation would not be good, even if he was a young master. But there was one person who never mocked or ridiculed me because I was a useless person. He also never isolated me. When I was young, he became my only playmate. One day, his mother told him that he could not be disrespectful in front of young master. Then, he finally realized that he was a servant. No matter what I said, I could not change it. Thus, his words and actions changed completely. No matter where he was very respectful to me. Chu Yang roughly understood Nangong Xing's feelings for Han Zhong. But you always treated him as a brother, as your closest kin, right? Yes. The hatred in Nangong Xing's eyes deepened. After I met with a fortuitous encounter, I soared to the sky. My status was completely different from before. Everyone came to curry favor, flatter, and please me. I don't even know how many servants I had. But only at times like this would they remind me not to be complacent. They even offended their superiors. At that time, I realized that he had always treated me as a brother. That had never changed. But this brother of mine was very useless. He fell in love with a lady from a certain family, but because of his status as a servant, he missed the person he loved the most. But I could not do anything. I could only watch as he fell. So, I decided to become a person above others. Nangong Xing said a lot. In the end, he mocked himself. Am I like a woman? Did I let you listen to so much nonsense? He felt that he was very strange. He had never said such words from the bottom of his heart to others. But today, he poured them out in front of Chu Yang. Perhaps the only reason was that Chu Yang was different from others. Chu Yang laughed. Stories between brothers are always beautiful. They are never nonsense. At least, this is more beautiful than eating dog shit. Ha ha! Nangong Xing naturally knew that Li Qianli was eating dog shit. He also knew that Chu Yang's brother had eaten dog shit before. Therefore, he also knew that when Chu Yang compared the story of him and Han Zhong to the story of eating dog shit, he definitely did not mean to belittle or mock him. He also liked Chu Yang's methods. If someone made his brother eat dog shit, he would definitely let that person have an endless supply of dog shit, even though it was extremely ugly. I know you are Lu San. Oh! Chu Yang was not surprised, but Nangong Xing was a little surprised. In my opinion, you should be at least a little surprised. Chu Yang smiled. Didn't you just tell me? Nangong Xing burst out laughing upon having this thought. This was indeed the case. When he had accused Chu Yang of killing his brother, this had already been exposed. Chu Yang didn't do anything, but Lu San did. At least, that was what people knew. At this moment, Nangong Xing's evaluation of Chu Yang had to be raised by another level. Who is it? After a moment of silence, Nangong Xing spoke again. Naturally, he was asking about the enemy in the dark. Chu Yang was surprised. Whose scapegoat did you become, and you still don't know? I am as stupid as a pig. Nangong Xing gritted his teeth again. He hated himself for this. He hated that he thought he was smart, but he was completely fooled by Yiyu. Chapter 1964. Nangong Xing's eyes widened as he stared at Chu Yang in astonishment. I seem to have done something great. Chu Yang couldn't help but touch his nose. Nangong Xing was not interested in this and immediately asked, You don't know who the enemy is. How did you threaten them to hand over your brother, and even force them to hand over the devil fetus? Nangong Xing called himself stupid, but he was not stupid at all. He knew what had happened very well. The blue moon grass is real. Just with this? Yes. Don't you think this is far from enough? Chu Yang suddenly felt that he was more powerful and incredible. I was lucky to succeed in deceiving them. They were obviously scared. So I died because of deceit. I died so easily. Nangong Shing's expression became very bitter. In the eyes of the enemy, he was insignificant and even worthless. He could even conclude that even if Chu Yang didn't make a move, he would still die for other reasons. In fact, it wouldn't be just one person who would die. His brothers couldn't die in his place. Both of them would die. In this way, he realized that he had to thank Chu Yang. How ironic! How much of a failure! Do you want to slit your own throat? Chu Yang really didn't want to say this, but Nangong Shing was behaving like this now. I look pitiful and ridiculous, don't I? Nangong Shing mocked himself again. His feeling was right. Chu Yang did have a unique temperament. Are you saying that you need to be comforted? Chu Yang said, let me remind you that we are not close. To be exact, we are enemies. Ha ha. Nangong Shing could not help but laugh. Then he said with hatred, I don't need to be comforted. I just need to take revenge. In the next martial arts competition of the 6 academies, they will definitely make a move on you. Then we will know who they are. That is indeed very likely, but not necessarily. Chu Yang thought about it, but he did not agree. If you can think of it, so can they. But they already think that you know who they are. What if they've already noticed? Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. Actually, I hope that they're aware of it. If that's the case, I think they'll be very happy. Not a bad idea. Nangong Shing sneered, however, it's far from enough to make them feel stupid. I mean, there should be such a possibility. Chu Yang realized that Nangong Shing did not understand what he meant. Perhaps the enemy had realized that they had been completely scammed by Chu Yang. If that was the case, the enemy would naturally be fully prepared and would not take the initiative to expose himself. Nangong Shing frowned. Are you saying that you can't find them either? I mean, you should go back and wash your brain first, Chu Yang said as he left, because he still had to participate in the martial arts competition. Nangong Shing did not say anything, nor did he stop him. At first, he was a little angry at Chu Yang, but in the end, his anger completely disappeared. It was time for him to wash his brain. If he was controlled by hatred, he would be a useless teammate. He could not do anything and would only make things worse. The enemy was definitely not ordinary. Otherwise, Nangong Shing would not be so miserable. He also finally understood why no one could do anything to Chu Yang. It was because not only was Chu Yang a monster, but he also never thought that his opponents were fools. In this regard, Chu Yang had done a much better job than him. It's probably a headache for them to encounter an opponent like Chu Yang. Chapter 1965. When Chu Yang returned, Li Qianli had already disappeared. When everyone saw him again, they discovered that his appearance had changed. There was an extremely cute little beast standing on his shoulder. Its transparent and pure eyes were curiously sizing up everything around it. It seemed that it had never seen such a big scene before. Isn't it usually that lousy bird? Where did such a cute little beast come from? Look at those women. What kind of eyes do they have now? They can't wait to rush up and hug that little beast in their arms. I seriously suspect that Chu Hang is digging a hole for all the women in the world. He's really going to be doted on by thousands of women. When Lil Guai appeared, many of the female students from the 6 great academies screamed even though they knew that it was Chu Hang. Especially at this moment, Lil Guai's curious look made their hearts overflow with love. At the same time, Chu Yang, who was already a little handsome, really became Chu Shui in their eyes. Chu Yang was the center of attention wherever he went. At this moment, because of Lil Guai, he was even more in the limelight. As for why Little Guai was only released now, the main reason was that this little fellow's nature was hard to change, and it was hard to change its nature. If it was present, Chu Yang's killing, dealing with Li Qianli, and other fellows would probably be obstructed. Among the crowd, Chu Yang saw many familiar faces. Ji Meng Jiinin, the little Zen master Fa Zhao, Mu Zizhen, Xiao Wanjin, Lu Yunpeng, Xiong Longxiang, Chen Burang, Long Xiaojun, and the others. Naturally, he saw Shangguan Lan and the others again. However, before he could greet Shangguan Lan, a voice came from the side. Chu Hang, aren't you afraid that the heavens will be jealous and strike you by lightning for changing your appearance like this? Feng Pelong's short hair was in the crowd. It was obvious that Zhang Jian was beside him. However, Zhang Jian had returned to his original appearance. Feng Pelong's hair seemed to grow naturally. Perhaps he wanted to remember the humiliation of having his hair pulled out by Chu Yang, so his hair was still short. Yuban Shuai's jealousy, can you not express it so obviously? Chu Yang directly attacked this animal. Low level. Hearing this, Xiao Guai widened her eyes and stared at Feng Pelong. Her gaze landed on Feng Pelong's short hair, leading all the female students to look over as well. Little Guai, are you ugly? Upon seeing this, Chu Yang immediately guided Xiao Guai. It nodded slightly, and Feng Pelong almost vomited blood. If this little fellow agreed that he was ugly, then he was really ugly. Among thousands of girls, he had completely become an ugly freak. It would be difficult for him to find a wife in the future. He did not dare to rebuke Xiao Guai because the consequences would be very serious, so he could only rebuke Chu Yang. Chu Hang, you're slandering me. Correct me immediately. Feng Pelong was flustered and exasperated. This matter concerned his reputation and his marriage. He definitely could not compromise on this matter, but Chu Hang had the authority. Damn little beast, one day, I'll cook you and eat you. Then, I'll get another one. That way, you'll be able to seduce women's hearts. He was extremely depressed, and he finally understood that Chu Hang was definitely an expert in this field, a top expert. Chu Yang ignored Feng Pelong and said to Xiao Guai, "Let's go, Xiao Guai. I'll bring you to see your sister-in-law." Yeah. The little fellow instantly became excited and kept asking, "Who is my sister-in-law?" Haha, Lan, Xiao Guai is here to acknowledge its sister-in-law. Chu Yang laughed loudly and flew towards Shangguan Lan. That place was simply a forbidden zone for males. Other than the parrot, which was a male bird, there was nothing else. Chapter 1966. Brother Goat, is it called Little Guai? Before Little Guai arrived, Shangguan Lan's joy and affection were obvious. When Shangguan Mei saw Little Guai, her eyes seemed to turn into red hearts. They completely ignored Chu Yang's shamelessness. Little Guai is so lethal. After Chu Yang exclaimed in his heart, he smiled and said, "Yes, Lan, it is Little Guai. Little Guai, come to sister-in-law." In the past, Shangguan Lan would never say the two words, sister-in-law, in front of everyone, but because of Little Guai, she said it so decisively that Chu Yang felt that he was not even as good as Little Guai. Yeah. As soon as Little Guai arrived in front of Shangguan Lan, it bowed to Shangguan Lan. Its respectful and serious appearance made it look even cuter. Although some people did not understand its voice, most people understood that it was respectfully saying, "Little brother Chu Guai greets sister-in-law. Hello, sister-in-law." Haha. Shangguan Lan was very happy. She smiled like a flower and replied, Good. Hello, Little Guai." As she spoke, she lovingly hugged Little Guai in her arms and stroked its silk-like fur, causing many of the female students present to feel extremely envious. Yeah. When Little Guai said to the parrot, it meant that it had not seen its little brother for a long time, which made the parrot collapse. It was a divine bird, but it had such a big brother. However, it had to obey, and did not dare to fly into a rage. Before the two monkeys appeared, even if Chu Yang did not teach it a lesson, Shangguan Lan and Shangguan Mei would be enough for it. It would definitely be suppressed for 10,000 years. "Brother Little Guai, long time no see." The parrot stiffened and said this sentence with difficulty, which immediately made everyone burst into laughter. Such a big brother, such a little brother! Too many people knew the parrot's character, but its big brother was completely different from it. The contrast between the two was too strong. "Oh, why is my bird life so miserable?" the parrot wailed in its heart. Yeah. When little Gwai saw the parrot being ridiculed, it was immediately furious. Its angry look only made the people burst into laughter. Yeah. Xiao Guai was even more furious. It jumped out of Shangguanlan's hand. It clenched its little beast claws and showed them to everyone, threatening them. However, its small appearance made it even more adorable, so how could anyone be afraid of it? This led to even more explosive laughter. Okay, little Guai, don't be angry. Shangguanlan loved little Guai. Anyway, little Guai isn't afraid of being laughed at, right? The parrot was sweating. Fortunately, it didn't rebel just now and obediently called him Big Brother Little Guai. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable and unimaginable. Yes. Sister-in-law is absolutely right. Their laughter only proves that this divine bird is deeply loved and envied by all. The parrot then said, "I'm just worried that they will be jealous of some people until they die." Dead Chu Hang, undead parrot. The parrot had already begun to shift its focus. Sure enough, as soon as it finished speaking, countless man-eating gazes fell upon Chu Yang. He who wishes to wear the crown must bear its weight. Chu Yang had a peerless beauty like Shangguanlan as his fiancée. He could only accept the jealousy of the animals. "Brother Goat, little Guai will follow me in the future. You don't have any objections, right?" Shangguanlan suddenly smiled. Her beautiful eyes emitted light as she looked at Chu Yang. Chu Yang was directly speechless. He didn't have any leeway to choose. Shangguanlan's tone was completely non-negotiable, she was just informing him. Chapter 1967. Woo. While everyone's attention was on Chu Yang and the others, the horn in the martial arts arena was blown. Dong dong dong. At the same time, a strong drumming sound was heard. The drumming sound seemed to be used to boost the morale of the army when they were charging. It made people's blood boil. The martial arts competition of the 6 academies had finally begun. The horn was blown and the drums were rumbling. In an instant, everyone's focus was on the rostrum in the center of the martial arts arena. The martial arts arena was very vast, like a grassland. The arenas were like yurts set up by herdsmen, densely packed and innumerable. The staff in charge of the martial arts competition were like a flock of sheep on the grassland. There were at least tens of thousands of people. The martial arts competition of the 6 academies was the biggest event in the East Continent. The students who passed the assessment will now enter the arena. A loud and old voice rang out, clearly reaching everyone's ears. Let's go! Let's go in. I want to see who will be the champion in this martial arts competition. Years of hard work and now it's time. Perhaps it was because of the drumming. The students of the 6 academies were all fired up and quickly entered the arena. In an instant, a huge crowd poured into the huge martial arts arena. The scene was so grand that it was difficult to describe it with words. And these were only the students who passed the assessment. Naturally, those who didn't pass the assessment could also enter, but they had to wait until all the examinees had entered the martial arts arena. It was Chu Yang's first time seeing such a scene. It was very shocking. After all, the students of the 6 academies were gathered together. There were too many people. I have to surpass so many people. Can I stand at the peak of the East Continent? For a moment, Chu Yang's heart was filled with heroism. For most men, supreme power and prestige were what they yearned for. Chu Yang was no exception. Success and fame, bringing glory to one's ancestors, existed in every world. The difference was that in the heavenly spirit world, success and fame were martial arts cultivation. It was a powerful strength that few could reach. Brother Yang, let's go in too, Shangguanlon said. Chu Yang nodded and followed the crowd into the martial arts practice field. Countless experts and countless streams of people rushed into the huge training field like a torrent. There was a spectator stand high up in the sky above the martial arts practice field. The top of the stand was sealed, and it was impossible to sense the people inside. However, there were many powerful auras coming down from above. The grand competition of the 6 academies was a grand event. Many families and sects in the East Continent came to watch and learn. Even people from the Central Plains came. Maybe the inspector of the East Continent was among them. If it was a patrol envoy, then the leaders of the 6 great academies would definitely be accompanying them. In addition, many people from the East Continent had rushed over after hearing the news. After all the participants had entered the arena, they would also enter the martial arts arena. The scene was extremely grand. In the sea of people, the examinees of the 6 great academies were quite easy to recognize. They could be identified by the uniforms they wore. The uniforms of the Sky Academy had a 5-colored auspicious cloud on the cuff. The Sky Sword Academy had a sword. The Star Academy had stars embroidered on it. The Myriad Academy had 4 symbols. Chu Yang was in the middle of the surging crowd. He felt as if he was a fish in a school of fish. Powerful auras were everywhere around him. Various kinds of lights were flickering at all times. There were endless voices of people. So much so that he didn't know which direction he was in. There were too many people. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.